Okay, yeah. So, oh no, just do one of these. This.
Is that clapping? Is that the slow clap?
Slow clap for Mark Fielden. And coffees.
Guten Morgen.
Yeah.
Or Ohio gozaimasu, as we say here in Nippon. Look at it. Busting out the Japanese already.
It's Brent and Mark in the morning. Ooh.
And one of these. Gotta get a free hand. 26 years and still going with that exaggerated wink and the thumbs up. Don't ask. You talked about the culture shock stuff, because that's one thing I want to call you out on. I've actually mentioned you not by name to my Shindai students because they're going abroad to study for a year. And they say about how, ways to avoid culture shock. And I mentioned a friend of mine who's very comfortable in Japan now, 24 or 5 years at the time. That's you. And they said, you remember once he was here about, I don't know, maybe 6 months at that point? I remember that day. I remember we're going to that Asuka place that's used to be a kisaten underneath that what's now a parking garage, near the GU. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that? Used to be Asuka there? And he said, you know what, Mark, I'm just feeling like bummed. Like, why? And I don't know if you used the word bummed, but you said, I was like, I think I've got like culture shock. Like, I've been there like 6 months or whatever it was at the time, and I don't really have any real like friends and that. And I'm like, well, that's not a cultural problem. That's probably going to be standard anywhere for you.
My
your
overall
disagreeableness.
My overall character.
Well, see, we should
take that away, and I'm a really great guy.
Or does this just start right in? Because this is good material right here.
It's great material.
But we can talk about that later.
No, and do you remember? So you remember what I said?
Okay, I remember you said that you didn't really feel like you made any meaningful relationships. That was the main thing. I don't remember.
No, so the thing I was complaining about most is like I was like, dude, yeah,
it wasn't getting you anywhere.
I was like, this is a great story because I was having trouble and you gave like great advice, and it was just so obvious. So I was having trouble believing people because I would say like. Somebody would say like, oh, I have to have you over for dinner. Like, my family would love you. It's like, great. When? Yeah. And they say, oh, yeah, well, I'll call you. And I was like, I've got my schedule book right here. And he said, I'll have to ask my wife. Okay, no problem.
And they come
never
back and
panned out.
We found out next February 30th. You're welcome. So is this on? Like, we could have really good material. I feel like there should be a start.
It's recording. You don't even have to say
anything. Didn't you swear? You could say, hey, this is my friend Mark. Give it up.
That's a good idea.
And I was going to say...
See, that's how inexperienced I am.
Well, fuck, can you tell? Oops, can I swear on this?
You can swear as much as
you fucking want. What will the sponsors say? What will the fucking sponsors say?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if I want sponsors, I should tone down the language.
I wanted some sort of intro. He's going to say, thanks for doing this. And I was going to say, hey, well, $10 is $10. And that's taking one from Geddy Lee with Bob and Doug.
I've got...
You Canadians out there.
I've got 340 yen in my bug, and that's all you're getting. That's train fare.
Nowadays, that's like 50 cents in Canada.
Yeah.
10 cents.
So this is my buddy Mark. He's one of my longest friends in Japan after Tomoko and Yachio. You're my longest friend in Japan. On paper, there's absolutely no reason why we should be friends, and yet,
Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
And yet here we are, like many years later.
How depressing! I'm getting depressed already. How sad is that?
At Misery Loves Company.
What's the square coffee cup? Okay, go ahead.
It is
It's hard to
oshare.
drink. Yeah, well, you got it. Wait, do I drink out of the corner? If I drink here, I'm worried it might drip over.
If you can't figure out how to see, this is what I'm dealing with. So, no, we've been friends for a really long time. Disagree on almost everything except the like core principles of like, really the core principles about life and the fact that we just never stop talking. So, this will not be Mark's last appearance. I think we could probably do...
You're not going to get any followers doing that.
We could probably do a series of podcasts, just you and I, for like, 100 episodes.
Then I want my cut of the 50 cents from the sponsors.
From the sponsors.
First, Suntory beer.
You need to... Hollister, you're advertising this. Free advertising
I do it all
for
the
Hollister. I'm going to mosaic that out.
And the diesel, well, that's hard to see. I mean, well, that's shame on them. I mean...
Although my huge pectoral muscle is like exaggerating this diesel mark. Okay, so anyway, I went to you and I said like, and then, I'm trying to get a date. And I would say like, hey, let's have lunch. And then she would say, sounds great,
This is back on the first culture shock.
Yeah. And so, so when I said to you then you said like, well, dummy, it's like, that's no different than Canada. People have their, tatemae, superficiality. So, you know, the whole let's do lunch thing.
I'm being superficial right now. Can't stand this guy.
So they said, let's do this, like, you said, like, this, people have the superficiality. People say things they don't mean. It's like, that would happen, the exact same thing would happen in Canada. I was like, oh, yeah. So it just, for some reason, I came to a new country and I just expected everyone to be honest. I mean, because, you know, I guess I am to a large degree. I try to be. And so I just thought when people said, like, let's have you over for dinner, they meant it. Because when I tell people, hey, why don't you come over for dinner? I mean it. So anyway, and so you said that, and I thought, well, yeah, that totally makes sense. I was just being an idiot.
But in fairness, Japan isn't alone on that. I mean, obviously not the superficial stuff, but I got that little mini shock when I was in Southern California, when I was in college, because there people are kind of like, oh, let's do lunch. I would see the Hollywood type saying, I'm not a Hollywood type, but Newport Beach and Irvine, they would say, yeah, oh, so we got to go out sometime. And I'd be kind of like the naive guy here, like, well, when, you know? Like, well, I don't really actually mean it. It's just kind of a throwaway line when you want to extricate yourself from a social setting, you know?
Yeah.
But
that was the extent of it. I just felt like, you know, this is everybody I talked to is just, I think what I said is, you know, everybody I talked to is just a fucking liar. You know, I was kind of down on myself, but you know, there are other circumstances. Like I had a few friends, all my students, like you came and you had like instant like coworkers and friends. I was working alone. I was living alone.
Having sex alone. That's true. I'll get to that while you have a coffee in a moment. Oh, another plug. Jeez.
Oh, my God. And then my students were business students, so we didn't hang out. They had families, or I didn't even think of asking them, like, you want to go? Until later. I hung out with some of them later. But, like, you were teaching junior high school students, so you had, like, people all around you all the time, and they were very exuberant and everything like that. So yeah, it was a very different situation. Actually, I thought that was one thing we could talk about, because our entry into Japan was so different. Because you came here, they flew you first class. You were on the jet program.
Well, no, actually,
not the first time, but the second time.
No, it was kind of, well, not that you guys know the jet programs. It's a government, like from Tokyo Momusho program, to bring foreign people to teach in Japanese junior high and high school.
And you do team teaching. There's a Japanese teacher, and then they have the foreigner teacher who does the kind of speaking and pronunciation stuff.
And Kakogawa, the city that we met in our hometown in Japan, was not on. Well, they had a jet program, but they didn't have it in junior high schools. They only had teachers in the high schools. So they wanted to start this program for the junior high school. So they kind of, out of their own budget of Board of Education in Kakogawa, they brought over four foreigners to start this program. So they modeled it after the jet program, just in that there was team teaching, the salary was similar, but they just rolled out the red carpet because we were the first ones. They set us up with an apartment, which I think they do in jet in most cases, but
they set them up with an apartment. They don't fly them first class anymore.
Well, they didn't us either. Here's the thing. This was kind of an, I must have told you this story. This was kind of an omen.
No, you've told me. That's why I want you to tell
why
them,
Japan.
This is one way to come to Japan.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was faking like you didn't know. Well, I check in, this was like way back, and I check in, it was a Northwest Airlines flight. I'm checking in Toronto, and it's a flight through New York or Newark, either way, the East Coast there. So as I'm checking in, the guy says, are you traveling alone? It's one of those standard questions. I don't know, I'm standing alone, but so I say, yeah. He's, oh, no, it appears you have a travel companion. I'm like, where? And he said, well, the same person who bought your ticket, purchased your ticket as bought for someone else. I said, well, now that we got it out there, who? I thought they usually can't, give names.
They probably shouldn't.
They probably shouldn't.
They won't now.
So, yeah. So they said, Muhammad Atta, I think his name was. No. Sorry. Too soon? 9/11?
He kids because he loves.
Yeah. Pilot of one of those planes. Okay. So, no, they said Stephanie Anspach. Sorry, Stephanie, if you're out there. So I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a good start. It's a girl. Stephanie. Always been. Have you ever met an ugly Stephanie?
No, actually, I have an ex-girlfriend named Stephanie, and she's hot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a name that's went out, like it's not in vogue anymore. There's nobody named Stephanie anymore, so any Stephanie's over 50 probably. But, like, Stephanie, that's a good, hot name, girl. So, but I'm not going to be she's going to be joining my portion of the flight from New York. So I get there, and I'm in the departure lounge at 747-400, so it's like 400 passengers. I'm thinking, who could be? I was guess the Stephanie game, right? I'm thinking, okay, family there, not Stephanie. a couple gay guys, probably not Stephanie.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Oh, no, not at all.
No.
So I'm trying to guess Stephanie. And then this chick walks in, like total Hollywood. She's wearing like a black one piece. I can still see like the kind of Madonna bleached blonde hair, but it worked.
There was like fan somehow blowing her hair.
Yeah, blowing her hair. Blew her dress up like Marilyn. Like the Wayfarer's on. And I'm thinking, oh, please, God, that'd be Stephanie. So I get on the plane and I'm, counting. I'm like row 51B, clearly not business or first class. And I'm counting like, and I could see the hot chick way back there. It's at the depth perception. Like, is that 41 or 51? So I keep walking back and 49, 50, 51. And I'm like, jackpot. But I'm like, I put on my cool poker face. I'm like, Stephanie? Oh, you're Mark, right? She puts her hand up. She's from Virginia. And I'm thinking, whoa, jackpot, hot. So we sit down, and we're just talking nonstop. She's into Simpsons and Seinfeld stuff. I was at the time. She's from Virginia. We had horses. I think she's kind of spoiled rich girl.
You don't have to whisper. It's the first time since I've met you, you're suddenly talking low.
I know.
Now that you're talking at the volume you want to talk at, usually we're yelling at each other, and I tell you to calm down, and then you go, oh, thanks for telling me, yeah.
Well, maybe the story's going on too long. But, so Stephanie, but then here's the thing, Stephanie's headphones don't work. So we call after we stopped talking for about 3 or 4 hours. And so we call the cabin attendant, and she brings her new set. And they don't work either. So now we know, hey, it's the jack. But I'm not thinking this way yet. So she comes back and says, well, would you guys like to move up to business class? Because, it doesn't work. And we're like, why? Come on. Would we like to? We're happy here with our busted head.
We've got our luggage up there.
Yeah, we got the noisy screaming kid. That kid kicking my seat where I say, hey, kid, if you do this again, I will do this to you. The pencil. That was my Arnold. Not very good. And I didn't have a pencil. So so we're like...
The kid's just watching you do this.
Yeah. He's like, you got a lighter? No smoking.
And that's where
that started there. I was like, my thumb got a cramp in it. Now I can't, bend it. It's just like this. So anyway, we go up to business class. And in a sense, we're talking chronologically out of turn, but the whole reason I was going to come to Japan was only going to be an 8-month gig. I thought, I'll give this a go, and you can ask me about that if you care. But I thought this is a great start. And the fact that I'm here now 30 years later, I know I don't show it because of the lack of wrinkles.
It's all that clean living.
Oh, God. So, what a great way to start. Super hot girl as my travel companion.
Bumped up to business class.
And really, if you believe in kind of omens, I know you and I aren't religious at all, but if you think, if that was a sign of what was to come, because and I know.
Okay, so let's have it. You land, there's a welcoming party.
Oh, yeah.
Every night for a week, there's this group and this group and this group for a month. They're giving you party after party that's all paid for. You just show up. You're the center of attention. It's all free-flowing drinks and Japanese food.
Yeah, we land, there's the greeting. I always wanted to have some guy, like George and Jerry, when they take the ride, the neo-Nazis limousine. Not neo-Nazis, and these guys weren't Imperial Japanese Army guys, but they're holding our name on a sign.
The more I learn about those Nazis, the less I care for them.
Well, you gotta learn more. So, great time to take a drink. How uncomfortable.
Here's to...
Still trying to figure out the corner, but... So we're greeted at the airport. They take us back. We already got from dinner, even though it was 10 o'clock in this time. And from there, as you said, every night was a welcome party, whether it was from Board of Education or this school or that school, or a teacher who worked at a school wanted to have us over. So we were every night. And the first time I ever got drunk in my life was in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I came here twice. That's something you didn't know.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker.
No, I know, but
even now,
even when you were a kid and you just drank too much?
In fact, I think it was, this is something I brought up with Japanese people before, because I don't know if you touched on this in your other podcast, but we could buy, you see it less now, but in the as you know, the Jidoan vending machine, you can buy beer, even hard liquor. You buy a Crown Royal, whatever, any sort of whiskey or hardcore drinks in a vending machine, which can't card you. And there's something to be said for that forbidden fruit thing. That, we tell kids back home, don't drink, you better not drink, and we got to ask the neighbor, some older brother to buy our beer. And it makes that thing that when you tell teenagers don't do something, obviously that's what they want to do. And I think that's lacking in a good way in Japan, that there's not that don't drink, don't drink. And why is that relevant to me? As you know, I've got a German mother and a wine connoisseur father. And
I was just about to say the Europeans have it right there, because by the time they get to drinking, it's just like what's the big deal?
I think I drank since I was 8 months old. No, about 8.
That'll explain the brain damage.
What'd you say? What'd you say? No, you know, my parent, we would have like Sunday dinner in the dining room. It was always like a fancy dinner, Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
And my parents, who loved wine, would always have a nice, I always remember mostly German white wines. And they would have their big adult glass. And us kids, we all had what basically was almost like a sherry glass size. And my brother, sister, and I all had our little kiddie glass of wine. And we did the kanpai, like toast and cheers. And we'd have that. And then we got
the Japanese people don't drink when they're young, except, you know, sometimes the father or uncle during New Year's holidays will, like, you know, give a little drink to the whatever 16 or
no. But my point is more about the forbidden fruit thing.
Yeah.
And for them, the forbidden it's not forbidden fruit because it's in the vending machines. You can buy it. Nobody cards you. Nobody cards at bars. Here's, you know, you can be 15 and go in a bar, and then for me, that we didn't have the vending machines. Obviously, Canada, we card people. You have to be 19. But having wine at age 8, 9, 10, whatever I was like, okay. So when my friends in high school were like, hey man, I want to get some beer. Let's go get wasted. I was like, okay, why? So yeah, I had beer like all of us in a little bit in high school. We stole a case of beer sometimes, but that's a different story. Several cases. But then when I went to California, even college days, those wild drinking college days, I mean, I don't know, I didn't really like the taste of beer, and you're not really into wine, at least I wasn't wine or hard stuff.
You just at a party with a glass of wine.
Yeah,
anybody want a drink of this Sauvignon Blanc?
Port.
So anyway, so going back to how you came to Japan, my experience is like totally different because there was no room. There was no room in economy. I had to go back with the animals, and I was And then when I got here, the guy who picking me up was actually late a couple hours, I guess, because of that's my buddy Kent, and so I was standing in the airport just like waiting. I had my base and a bag, and then it was interesting because it was so easy to find him because there's me, a bunch of people, and then him, and he was 6'4". He was like taller than me, so it was like, I guess that's the guy picking me up, and so saw each other like across the airport. So
it wasn't an omen for you. Your arrival was shitty, and you ended up having a good life.
And I had to do all the bureaucratic stuff, like getting my ID card and getting my stamp registration and opening my own bank account and buying a car, getting a loan to buy a car and everything. Like when you came. Yeah, the city just like, here's your card, and here's your stamp, and here's your bank account.
And here's your first month's salary. It's like, well, I haven't done anything yet.
It's
good. It's like, bye. No, I made out on this deal.
Yeah, I didn't get. The only thing is they did lend me some money so I could get some things like when I came, because I was a student. Like, not only that, I was worse than a student. I graduated, and then I was like a professional musician, and I was only working part-time. Yeah, so when I couldn't even afford my plane ticket here, when I got the job, I said, you're going to have to pay for my plane ticket.
You had to do gay prostitution in Sudbury.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. So
they don't pay well, I heard.
There's nothing wrong with Sudbury either.
No. Great place for nickel.
Right. So yeah, totally different. And then there was so many, I'll probably talk about it some other time, maybe on a solo podcast, but just the...
Oh, that'll bore the shit out of me.
Because I was in
Don't watch that podcast.
I was in I was trying to get a loan, and then I needed like something to get the loan, but in order to get that thing, I needed the registration, like for the stamp, but I couldn't get the stamp registration without
the stamp. What we call a catch-22.
The catch-22.
Yeah, it's like, you need experience, but I can't get experience. I can't get that.
In Japan, they call it a paradox.
Oh, paradox.
And so the car guy he calls the city hall, and he says, he's yelling at them in Kansai dialect. Is not a Kansai dialect, it's the Banshu dialect, and he's yelling at them, and at that time I could basically understand. Basically, he was saying, I'm trying to sell this fucking guy a car, and you're making it difficult, and so don't get in my way. And he said, I'm sending him over there right now. Whatever problem you're having, fix it. because I explained to the guy, as best I could in Japanese. He understood me. He's like, this is messed up. And so when I went over, so I guess I don't have to mention this in the podcast, but when I went over,
you don't even have to mention it.
When I went over,
tell me when it's over.
Suddenly there was a loophole that there's if you sign this document, then you can get the registration. I was like, well, that option wasn't available when I was coming here for the past week. But anyway, so yeah, much different experience coming to Japan, but still here we have a love of Japan. Why do you love Japan?
Well, I was hoping we talked about more why I come to Japan, but okay.
You can
why do I love Japan?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the reasons are bountiful. You guys already talked about it, I think, the other day, but obviously the food is great. People are great.
Yeah.
The safety, even though not like, we're fairly big guys, not that we're badass or anything, but I don't go to other cities in the world and worry about crime or being mugged or anything. Having said that, I mean, it's nice to know that you can walk down any road in Japan at night, I think, and not feel at all at danger. You don't have to worry about leaving something valuable, out in public and someone,
It's a regular thing. I take my phone and I put it on the table, and then I go and order at Starbucks, and I come back to my table.
I've done that with my car key sometimes, and he comes and says, don't do that. It's like, because car, it has the model number of the car, so people can see, okay, it's that car. But I'm like, someone's going to steal my car in Japan. Probably not. But that can also be a danger, because now when we travel abroad, we're so used to here that if you do that back home, you will lose your phone or you will lose your car.
Just making sure this thing's still recording.
So
a one-man production here.
So safety, and I like the way everything is.
Oh yes, I know what you're gonna say.
Everything is so well done and well presented, and for years people always say to me, when I'd ask Japanese people, "What do you like about Japan?" And they say, "Well, it's clean," and I'm like, well, it's like, we're from Canada. It's not like you got people just throwing litter. Maybe now more than before. But growing up, people wouldn't just throw that piece of paper there on the ground and walk away, or an empty can of Coke and you throw it on. We don't do that, and we don't have garbage lying around in Canada, at least.
But a lot of our students, you probably heard this. They go to they go to places like Australia, New Zealand, and they're just like newspapers strewn about on the.
So maybe they're comparing it to that, but for me, I can only speak from my experience. I thought, well, when they keep saying it's so clean, it's like, well, again, Canada's on. We got litter lying around everywhere. But it was only till fairly recently where I realized, no, it's not about litter per se, although that's part of it. Yeah. It's just the way, everything, like even a little house, the people will take pride in the front of their house. There'll be no garbage out in front, or there won't be weeds coming through a crack in the concrete.
There's no marks on the walls. There's no spray painting. Everything's like nice and clean. Like even in the corner, like in the corner of a building, like they clean everything. And when you go to other countries, you realize, whoever cleans this place,
the dirtiest floor I'll be in today is right here for sure. You can scan around the.
Yeah, I knew you were coming. That's why.
But yeah, so it's and that kind of just permeates society. I mean, I think the way we know that expression like ishokemme, about doing something like full on. There's like no half-ass here.
Yeah, and people just do their jobs properly. It's like
whether you're cleaning the toilet in the train station, I always say hi to those people. I know we both do, because I always feel like, wow, that person might just get walked past every day, because even though there's not like the judgment, he's a toilet cleaner, but there's kind of these invisible people.
I think there might be in Japanese society, but yeah.
But I think we're more social. Social status is bigger, I think, to Western, at least in Canada and the United States, than it is here. I mean, as far as like, I look at the pride of those guys, the garbage truck guys that come by in front of our house and pick up the garbage. First of all, the truck plays music. So your garbage truck, it does two things. It's coming. Oh, the garbage truck, you've got to make a dash. So it's coming. And the second thing, it just kind of takes away the sound of a ugly sounding truck that's crushing garbage.
Yes.
And what I love, these guys, they get out. The truck they're standing on the outside like firemen, or my image of firemen, or the guy in Kennedy's car. Okay, bad example. But they're ready to jump into action. And they jump off their little foot, whatever you call it, stand on the side of the truck. The truck doesn't stop. It keeps going like walking speed. Those guys grab and then they chase after, jump in, or they're running to the next garbage station where the truck will meet them. And the other day I just caught him as he's going by, and I handed him with a big smile. I said, "Go man, I said, sorry, excuse me, sorry I didn't get out in time." He's like, Daijoubu desu, big smile, he takes it. I mean, I don't know if you'd say it's a pride in his job, but there's certainly no shame in his job. He's like, he seems to like what he does and makes the most of it.
It's amazing how freaking clean the garbage trucks are. They're spotless. Man, they're like, garbage trucks are cleaner than most people's
again, what we're talking
cars
about.
back home.
Ishokime, like even you're the garbage truck. Well, when you're not picking up the garbage, what are you guys doing? Clean the freaking truck.
When you get back, it's your job to clean the truck. But I think people back home, they're like, that's not my job.
I mean, the image of firemen back home, they're always cleaning their fire trucks and those Dalmatians sitting around. And they should, because like other than that, they're just playing cards. I mean, when those guys work, they're working big time. But come on. I mean, how many fires are there going on every day?
Right,
so they got to earn their money, but it's more than that. But here, like, when those guys have done the garbage, I guess they're, okay, well, got to do something. And their senpai, they're kind of senior, would have said, hey, you slackers, grab a mop and let's clean.
And also, when you walk into a restaurant even or something like that, the people are standing there waiting for customers. There could be nobody in the place and they'd just be standing around. Yeah. You go to a place in Canada, like this actually happened to me. I think it was when I went in maybe 2004. I was in Toronto. I went to this restaurant, sat down at a booth, and which wouldn't happen in Japan. Somebody would greet you and seat you, and then that happens in some restaurants back home too. But anyway, these two girls are chatting, and they look over, see that we're there. Finish their conversation about some TV show that they were talking about, didn't even bother to say, I'll be with you in a second, and finish their conversation, which they shouldn't have done anyway. But and so Tomoko and I at the time, we were sitting there, we're just in disbelief that somebody would have the gall to finish their fucking conversation before like attending to someone in their shop. And it's just like, that would never happen in Japan. And it's another great reason to live here.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people are too cool for school back home. I remember
and no tip. Like you get all this amazing service with no tip.
That's the irony. I mean, the amazing service, and you again can't tip basically, as you guys have already talked about.
Can. It's really difficult.
And back home, it's expected, and it starts at 18% on that little machine they bring to your table now. 18, 20, 25, or other, or 18, 25, or other. Really? Other? Okay. How about
the other's going to be 10?
Zero. How about that? Is zero an option? I guess it is. But so I remember going to Tim Hortons, their plug for those Canadian donuts and coffee guys. But Tim Hortons, a few summers ago when I was back in Canada, and the guy greets me, hey bro, what can I get? What can I get you? And I get it that he's trying to be friendly. And I remember saying to him, I kind of laughed. I said, okay, I'm not your bro. Like, I get you seem like a friendly guy, but maybe, up the professionalism a little bit. I mean, it's a little bit too, and it worked maybe for that guy because he was a friendly guy, but it's like, there should be some decorum or some sort of modicum.
I used to have when I lived there, when I was a university student, we'd go to like East Side Mario's or whatever, and the server would sit down in the booth with us. There'd be 4 people, and he'd sit down at the edge and say, "Hey, so what do you guys want tonight?" And it's like, "I want you to fucking get out of our booth." It's like,
wow, yeah. Like again, on the one hand, maybe some of these people are trying to be,
and maybe some people like that, but
I think there's got to be a standard. I think in Japan sets a standard really high, which we can talk about sometimes, where they're stubbornly like, this is the way, this is the manual way. There's no flexibility about changing an order. But having said that, if you've got to go one way or the other, I'm with them. And that's maybe one of the things that keeps us there.
Oh, and by the way, we treat staff incredibly well. We're always up with the banter and we're really friendly.
No, I think so. We are really friendly. We were talking about that the other day. Try to make it fun for them because that's their job. And they probably get the robotic response to the robotic requests every day. And it's very boring. So throw them a curveball every now and then with a smile and be a bit of a smart ass. And I'm also big on, I don't know if Brent does it, but they always wear name cards here. They call them.
I do that too.
And they'll say Sato.
Sometimes they forget that they're wearing the card. Exactly. And they're like,
what's two surprises? They forget, or they're like, wow, what's this white guy reading my kanji name? And I don't read all Japanese, but names I'm really good at 99%, especially if they're Kansai local names, because it's, names in Japan tend to be regional. You'll get a lot of maybe Sato Suzuki's. We've heard so many times, Suzuki, most popular name in Japan. It's like, I don't know tons of Suzuki's. Yeah. So they're all up in Kanto, Tokyo area, which is very populated. So they stuff the ballot box, the Suzuki's. But here, whether it's Hashimoto's or Tanaka's or whatever, there'll be certain regional names. But all the names around here, I can read 98% of them.
Because you worked in a school, and all the kids' names would be
always
written.
Be posted, and
so you just associated. Okay, so whatever that thing is, that means
Tanaka,
Tanaka,
I've got a very
Ikumi.
visual
And so,
memory.
right.
And then they even got, you guys talked about the other day about the different readings, because you were talking about homonyms with 2, and 2 and stuff like that. Yeah. But the whole different reading of the kanji, like Azuma or Higashi, and it's the same kanji. And so if I saw it at first, Shuseki Bango, first number, then it's Azuma by alphabet. Mm-hmm. If I see it down around number 12 or 13, it's Higashi.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
But if it's not in any ordered list, if the person is wearing, it's you're better going with Higashi. Although when it's alone, it's probably an Azuma. So there's a lot of that. Nakaya, Nakatani,
and
same reading.
Japanese have kind of an alphabet. They don't go by the Roman, like A, B, C, D, but they have like a, ta, sa,
right. So yeah, by the order you can guess the name. But if it's just a name here, there's no order. It's just this person. But anyway, so we'll throw.
You have to take a shot.
Sometimes, yeah, Azuma, and then they say Higashi desu. It's like, come on. I had a name like that the other day. I went for the more tricky one because I thought no one's going to have such a dopey simple name, and it was the dopey simple name, and I can't remember what it was. It was something. Anyway, but yeah. So we'll talk about the banter with the staff of anywhere, restaurants. The train staff,
especially when you can speak Japanese, it kind of puts them at ease because when they come to a table with a foreigner, they're like, I forget, I fell asleep in English class, and then when you say like konnichiwa and genki desu ka, and there's oh god, okay, this guy.
And it also doesn't hurt that like 80% of like what they call hall staff, people serving in restaurants, are usually young college girls, and they're just that's our demographic. That's what we're appealing to today. Get by, so no, and they tend to be really cute and fun to kind of, not even.
Well, and also we both teach at university, and we've taught at women's universities, and so what he means by, I think what you mean by our demographic is we're so used to banter with them.
Maybe I mean that
we kind of know what they're into, and and how to talk to them, things that make them laugh and stuff like that. So
yeah. So when we got onto service and name, I forget where did we go? How did we get over here?
I don't know.
But no, you asked me things I like about Japan. Yeah, definitely service. There's that full on. There's no half-ass anything. Food is great. People are great. It's a nice country aesthetically. I mean, not in some ways. People will often complain about the way the power lines are above ground for earthquake reasons, can kind of ruin the aesthetics of some towns. But as you guys talked about the other day, it's a real mountainous country. I think it's like 80%, 20% of the land is arable. I think it's mostly mountainous country, came up from the sea. So a lot of mountains, lots of sea. Obviously, it's an island country.
And
rivers.
some statistical 90% of the population lives within 5 kilometers of the sea. Like it's like
I guess in Canada, by the southern coast of America, the southern border. Yeah. But yeah, it's a country the size of California. Again, people always think it's such a small country because they look at it beside Mother Russia and China. It's like a tiny little banana. But it's bigger than every European country except what? Germany or France? Which one's bigger? One of those.
Germany's bigger, I think.
Yeah, so it's Germany's bigger than Japan, but this is bigger than every European country. It's the size of California. It's like 380,000 square kilometers. It's pretty big, but 1/26 the size of Japan.
But it's 4,000 kilometers from north to south.
Yeah, it's a long, skinny country. But so anyway, there's a lot to see. I mean,
a lot of diversity.
Yeah, the people that think it's just a wall-to-wall city like Megalopolis or whatever. Metropolis.
There's a lot of there's that nature in here too.
But
it's a utopia in a lot of ways because the economy is pretty good and like I said, it's safe and everybody's doing their job properly. Everything's on time, and also going out to eat is extremely cheap, and brings me to my next topic. You have a lot of visitors to Japan, and you take them out. Where are your go-to places when you take them out? Because I think people want to know, where are good places to go. If not specific restaurants, just what kind of food do you take people to that that this is a surefire hit? Foreigners are gonna love this.
Well, you want to start on the food?
Yeah, food. Anything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously sushi. We've been, it's great. Even the cheap places that I found, the kaiten sushi, the conveyor belt sushi here, they tend to be family restaurants. The places like Obama go to up in Tokyo, and the guy's wearing a hachimaki, a little sushi bar, I guess, a counter. Those are really overpriced, really good. But really
I would say that's an experience. If you got a bunch of money to burn, or you've been saving for that experience for a while, yeah, it's really nice, and I've done it a couple times. But honestly, like the difference in the amount of sushi for the difference in price.
Exactly.
Everything's on a scale. It's kind of like, cars. You want a sports car, and suddenly it's like 3 times the price of this car, but it's not really 3 times the value, like for parts and stuff like that. So basses, guitars, same thing. But anyway, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that if you got money to burn. But don't feel like if you're on a budget, you're like, oh, but we got to try this while we're here. No, you don't. Just go to the kaiten sushi places.
Ueda-san took us to one. That's where we brought that Chateau Margaux. This guy, he booked out the sushi bar, for lack of a better word, here somewhere in Kobe. And he had Kashikiri kind of booked it out just for us, my father, my sister, myself. And he brought, you could bring, like, usually bottle keep is not bottle keep, what do you call? Like in Australia.
Yeah. You bring your own, cork
bottle.
Fee, right?
Yeah, where you bring your own bottle. But he brought a bottle of Chateau
They don't do
Margaux.
that in Japan. But
don't expect
if you're
that.
booking the whole place out, go ahead.
This guy's probably regular. And again, it was Chateau Margaux. Like, wow, with sushi. That was pretty good. But again, as he said, it's worth it. It's a nice experience. But it's, the value you get from, it's not commensurate with the
plus the carousel or the sushi is also kind of entertainment.
Kind of fun, yeah. And in fact, so just right now, I've got visitors here, not staying with me, but they're an American family are here. They're in Kyoto, coming down to Osaka today. And we went out in Kyoto the other night for sushi, and we went to Kurazushi, which is one of there's a plug, one of the conveyor belt sushis. It's 150 yen, which right now isn't even a US dollar, for 2 pieces of sushi. And when you're done the plate, you drop it down that slot. And when you've done 5 plates, it does the...
Oh, no? Yeah, I never did. Because what they normally do is that the plates are different colors. Right. And at the end of the meal, they count, colors and add everything up.
But Kurazushi has... I prefer sushi roll, I think, just for quality and variety.
Oh, I prefer Kurazushi.
Oh, yeah? Well, Kurazushi has this. You drop the plates into a slot.
I've been there, but I've never seen it.
It looks like a coin slot. And your plates slide down there. I guess the plates are all the same color, same price. And every 5 plates, it like does a little, not a roulette wheel, but kind of an animated thing, and you get a prize, or not, or hazard.
And some of them have they have 2 tracks. One is the track that just like comes around. Oh really? Oh, point the fan to you. Just point it down a little bit. It's on, but it's pointing up. Yeah, some places will have the one conveyor belt that just goes around, and you take the sushi you want, first come first serve, and then they'll have
you could also order the upper tray.
They call it the Shinkansen, the bullet train. So something you order on your like tablet screen, you order will come to your spot, and
which
comes
is multilingual, by the way, too.
Like this. Yeah, right. Straight. And then you take it, and they have covers on them to prevent from
coughing on.
Yeah.
Before even Corona, not.
So I highly recommend the Carousel Sushi place.
So this family wanted to go, and what we say too about sushi. I mean, I'm from Toronto, near the Toronto area, and for some stupid reason years ago, somebody wanted to go for sushi when I was home in the summer. Like, I love Japanese food. I don't want to have it when I'm back in Canada.
Me too.
Obvious reasons. So I went to some kind of foo-foo, way too cool for school, kind of trendy restaurant for sushi. And it was like, wow, it wasn't even very good. And it was way more expensive because in Western cities, it's kind of a trendy, cool date spot to go to. But the sushi isn't as good. It's way more money. I think it's $8 or $10 could be for a little plate of 2 pieces. Jesus. And as we talked about, the problem is the rice. I mean, we got great fish in Canada, but the rice sucks. I mean, sorry, but it's a different kind of rice. Here we've got that soft, mushy, stick together rice, and it just works with the fresh fish.
Yeah,
and the dry rice back home is
you've asked, I'm sure. Hard. You ask any Asian what the best rice in Asia is, and they all say Japanese. Yeah, whether they're from Myanmar, Thailand, India, China, Philippines.
Even the Southeast Asians say that?
Yeah.
Oh,
everybody, Philippines, they all say Japanese rice is the best.
In '94, there was a drought in Japan. Didn't rain that much, so the rice harvest was spoiled, and Japan had to import a lot of rice from Thailand. And everyone complained about it. Said, oh, Japanese rice is the best.
Too, but
and I'm like, well, it works with Thai food, right? It's kind of longer and skinnier and dry, a little drier, but it works with like Thai curry and stuff like that. But Japanese food, because again with the fish, especially sushi, the way it sticks, the fish just sticks on top of it, and it works. But so yeah, sushi, one of those cheap places. Okay, it's not much for atmosphere, but it's kind of a fun atmosphere versus a foo-foo, cool date
and it's
spot.
good sushi.
It's great sushi, better than back home. Maybe LA or some of the West Coast cities, Vancouver, might be comparable because there's more Asian, more Japanese.
And plus, the Japanese are opening restaurants there.
Yeah, and it's closer, obviously, to Japan, so you got a lot more Japanese there. So that's good.
And by the way, something you might not know, that sushi actually is the rice. Su is vinegar, and shi comes from meishi, which means rice. It can also mean meal. But so it's the rice that is sushi. It's not raw fish. The raw fish version is sashimi. Sashimi is raw fish.
So, okay, so that's obviously a must-go place for foreigners. I mean, unless they're just really averse to having raw fish, which is something I wasn't excited about when I came to Japan. They eat raw fish like all the time, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I actually done that. Japanese food, what's that? Like, this is like back in 92. I mean, George H.W. Bush was president when I came here. And I was like, I'm thinking, Japan, they eat raw fish, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, that's going to suck. When I tell people here in Japan, they laugh. That's what I thought. I mean, nowadays with the YouTube and the Google and the internet, people know a lot more about Japan. But I mean, I guess I'd heard of tempura. But
how often do you think Japanese eat sushi? Once or twice a week?
Maybe not even that.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, because as you know, if you come here, there's people know tempura now and they know noodle dishes, ramen, soba, udon. But yeah, we could go on and on about the different Japanese foods that, konomiyaki you wouldn't know. It's not worth explaining, but there's a lot of great foods here. So I think taking people to sushi, like I just did with this family. Konomiyaki is also, having mentioned that, it's a fan favorite. I've never met someone who dislikes.
No, all foreigners like.
It's like a foreign friendly, loosely. It's like a pizza / omelet. It kind of, if you had to describe it, it's kind of, but it's worth eating. Nobody dislikes it.
Yeah.
So that would be food stuff to see. And again, Kobe beef. Although if you come, we're sitting here in Kobe. There's a lot of stuff that's Kobe beef, and they can't mislabel stuff in Japan. So it really is Kobe beef. But there's different grades of it. And anything you see for like $25 is not really what.
Well, the good thing about that is I don't like high grade Kobe beef. There's so much fat in it. It almost just makes.
But how about a
ill.
juju? Like that's.
But even
it's
still,
decadent. But
even still, his is probably not A5. It's maybe A4. Which I like. Juju is teppanyaki. It's the place where what's that place where they're flipping stuff? Benihana, but they don't do all the crazy flipping and stuff. So it's just the grill where the guy cooks in front of you and then puts it in. It's a course menu and it's amazing. It's in Ashiya.
It's
called Juju.
Behind Ashiyagawa station on the Hankyu line.
I'll put a link in
below. Worth going.
It's not super cheap, but it's Kobe beef. And it's amazing, and the guy speaks a little bit of English.
He tries. He's
and
a
lot of famous...
a lot of baseball players. If you like baseball, you'll probably run into a pro ball player, a Japanese ball player. But Ichiro and guys like that are around. They could come by at any time. But so, that's worth seeing, having too, Kobe beef again, unless you're a vegetarian. Like this one guy who's visiting now, his daughter is a vegetarian. You can't go wrong with that. I mean, most people like meat, and that's really good beef. So food. So what you asked me about must-see.
Robata yaki?
Yeah, that's good. There's a place in Osaka. I mean, there's several, but one we sometimes go to is a place called Rikimaru. Rikimaru. It's the kanji for power and circle.
I'll put a link, and I'll flash these things up on the screen when you mention them so you get an idea of what we're talking about.
Rikimaru, if you get there like on time, because there's just regular tables on the second floor, which aren't as much of the experience, but as you know, you sit around the grill, basically. Unlike the teppanyaki where it's a hot plate, it's like a barbecue grill, like it's grates, and the guy will cook stuff in front of you, and there's fresh fish and everything around him. So you got him in the middle, the fresh food all around him, and then you say, I want this and this, and then he picks it up and cooks it if it needs cooking.
He's got this really long stick.
It looks like an oar. It looks like an oar for like canoeing.
Isn't that robata? Is that where it comes from? That's the thing. That thing is called robata. I might be mistaken. So it's oar. So because he's got to reach, as I just said, there's about a meter of food in front of him, at least. That's probably a meter, and then he's got the grill. So he's standing. Well, you guys can't see, but there's that plant over there. About 2 meters away, he's going to tub and be leaning over like your food. So he very adroitly puts it on the oar and like serves you on the oar. He's taking off that and then he pulls it back. And again, really inexpensive. I haven't been there recently, but
And prices probably went up with everything right now because of the inflation and the weekend.
But if you're coming from abroad, you're winning.
It was basically 300 yens, which was in our mind used to be like $3. But now it's like more like that's $2 for most items, but there's some stuff a little more expensive. And beer again is only $3. So that's where we're seeing, we said the Kobe beef, sushi. So as far as eating, that's the first three that come to mind.
Yeah, I also got to do takoyaki. If you should take a trip to Namba and walk around and eat some street food. Maybe get some ramen. I know you're not a big ramen fan. I think I'm not. Ramen. I have ramen maybe once or twice a year, but when somebody comes, I said, let's go to a ramen shop. And then the takoyaki is the little pieces of octopus in a dumpling.
That are hot forever. Like, they'd be great if you were like stranded on a mountain about to die. Not only would you be revitalized with nutrition.
You'd be too hot.
You'd be fucking,
get these things away from me.
No hypothermia here. These things, they're like natural insulation. It's like a little battered ball, like size of about a ping pong ball. They cook them on a grill
with ping pong sized holes, and then it's really interesting watching them
flip them over. They flip them over.
Have a little stick and they like that, and they kind of flip over.
Yeah, it's like in a little dimpled grill pan.
I think we have a clip.
It's like performance art.
So they flip them over, but inside, and then they put a little piece of octopus in there that gives them the takoyaki part of it. So it's like cooked octopus. Yeah. Although that sounds kind of grotesque, but it's just a little it's like a dumpling, really.
Yeah, with
and everyone likes those too. I mean, probably if you're fresh off the boat from America, you're going to think, octopus. Some people are still there. They think of the octopus people throwing the NHL rings sometimes. Detroit, I think it was the Red Wings, Joe Louis Arena. You guys are freaking nuts. What's with the octopus? I don't get it. Hats I get. So there's the takoyaki. That's, again, I guess worth doing. And again, they're kind of a fan favorite.
Yakitori, you got to go to.
Yakitori, that's a chicken skewer.
Yeah. Because especially the torikizoku.
Yeah,
they're super cheap, and the beers, the drinks, all the drinks are about not $3, and now it would be $2.20, I guess, for everything on the menu. Everything you order on the menu is about $2.20.
$2 American.
Yeah,
for a draft beer, So again, back home, I don't think you're getting a beer for anything less than $7.
But it's something that everybody likes because it's skewers of chicken. Who doesn't like chicken?
Unless you're one of these vegetarians.
But they also have vegetable things.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than that. It's mostly known for yakitori, but as he said, it's a chicken skewer. I mean, in Malay, they would call it a satay, like the chicken skewer. Mm-hmm. So that's good too. So enough of the food stuff. I mean, I hate watching people eat, but talking about people pretty boring too.
No, people are interested in this stuff.
But about places to go, I think you asked that. What would be for me and my friend Josh, who's from America, big World War II fan. He's got to go to Hiroshima. That was my first. When my people in Kakugawa, they asked me, "Where do you want to go?" Because once again, rolling out the red carpet, they said, "We want to take Mark Sensei somewhere that he wants to go to. We want to take him somewhere and pay for everything like they always did." Thank you, people.
Yeah, nobody paying for me when I came.
In fact, you used to go up and pay strangers to go with you.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
Be alone.
I mean, but you can buy friends here in Japan.
We never got to the $8 coffee store. That's coming later. So hold on. So Hiroshima.
Me too. Hiroshima.
Must see. And just a couple of years ago, they quadrupled the price of the admission for that museum.
So now
it went from 50 cents to $2. No, it was 50 yen for like 30 years. It was 50 yen to go. You go to the Peace Park in Hiroshima. Beautiful park, but they've got all kinds of monuments. Of course, the famous atomic bomb dome. It's a whole building that survived the crash, barely, or the atomic blast. But then there's this museum, as you know, very air-conditioned, nice, beautiful museum with a lot of exhibits and kind of some pretty grotesque stuff too, where you see pictures of people with their skin just burnt right off and keloid, that kind of burn blast blister to human skin. But it's somber, and it reminds you of the power, evil of this bomb.
We both agree on how extremely well done it is, in that there's no it just presents information.
Yeah,
you go around and you look at the information, and it's just factual. And this is this letter. Here's a letter from Roosevelt. Here's a letter from Einstein, and this is what happened, and the events. And then you make up your mind if you're for or against. You can go through that whole museum and not see them kind of pushing either agenda. Except the whole purpose of it is like, we don't want nuclear bombs, and that's controversial. Nobody wants any nuclear bombs to fall, but anyway, it's extremely well done. Nagasaki, on the other, you've been to Nagasaki, right? They are bitter, and rightfully so. We both agree on that.
No, actually, I'm good with both bombs. Sorry, I mean, I love Japan, love the Japanese people, but we get into historical talk about why.
I'm good with Hiroshima and not with Nagasaki.
They saw it coming. They had a chance to stop, and they still didn't. But Hiroshima, I mean, I'd always been interested in the Manhattan Project from when I was in university, and I thought I got to go there. And the amazing thing is, every time I go to Hiroshima, it's beautiful weather. It's always a blue sky and sunny. I've never, and that was actually their curse that day on August 6th. It's like some poor bugger is going out the door saying, "Hey, tenki desu ne."
Yeah.
You know, and like beautiful sky, because that's what saved, as you know, Kokura. You know, Target on August 9th was actually a city called Kokura, which is in the Kitakyushu, and that boxcar was the name of that plane. They went around like 3 times. They're like, "What the hell? We can't see the city." Because there's tons of cloud all over Kyushu. That
well, there's Nagasaki.
They went around 3 times and thought, "Damn, we're going to drop this in the water, and that would be a waste." Sorry, it sounds mean, but it would have been a waste of that science project, and $2 billion spent on the bombs. So they went to target 2, which was Nagasaki, and the same thing there. It was like just cloud. The guy's like, "What the hell? This doesn't look like anything from those recon maps." And then just a little break in the cloud opened up, and they saw the Mitsubishi shipbuilding. There, and the guy said, "Okay, let it rip." But that's why it was a little off target in Nagasaki, right? Hiroshima, amazingly precise. I mean, they said it was 150 meters. The hypocenter, the bomb exploded 600 meters above where they were aiming for, that T-shaped bridge, bridge. It was like perfect. Actually, a bridge shape of a T, the way it goes over rivers that come together. And so that was the target, and the bomb went up over where the Hiroshima Stadium, where the baseball stadium is now. So very close. And when you figure from 33,000 feet with the wind and all, they were right on. But with Nagasaki, they missed by quite a bit. And that's why it didn't do as much damage, actually, because that city, as you know, is really the port city, but it's very
spread out. Plus there's water right in the middle of it.
Well, it's a lot of hills. Like it's like, so that kind of just blocks a lot of the shock wave and that. So they were kind of probably spared lives because the guy was off target. They were trying to hit Mitsubishi, and the wind or whatever.
What I was getting at is the Nagasaki one is dark and bitter, and they're a little bit too much on the side of, we were just minding our own business, dude, which is not true.
Again.
But we were just minding our own business, and the big bad Americans dropped the bomb on us, and shame on them. Whereas the Hiroshima one doesn't do that. It's just neutral. Yeah. This is what happened.
Well, I got something to say about that, if I can. I mean, I never experienced any. Do you have any of that Tansan I could do that. Coffee, but for some reason, I know that low fat is better for you, but it just doesn't work for me. Makes the coffee too strong. Unless I had it like half and half. I'll wait till you come back to.
No, just keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Still rolling. I'm listening to you.
But museum. I mean, we barely touched on culture shock earlier. I never experienced it all here. I'll tell you why if you want to know. But one thing that was surprising, not shocking, but surprising, was kind of the telling of history here. And it's a bone of contention for some in academics and some Western scholars, how unfortunately Japanese school books, like that they learn in junior high school, like when we learn history and that, they talk a lot about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but very little about Pearl Harbor or Manchukuo or Nanking in China, where a lot of people were killed by Japanese, and that was before, the war really started.
Even now, after years and years, decades of criticism,
Thank you. You want a coaster? You don't use a coaster? It's a lovely glass table.
Oh, no, it's a glass, so no problem. I respect wood.
I don't think you respect that. I don't see any wood in this place.
There's no wood here. Even after decades of criticism, they now have changed some textbooks, and there's like a tiny blurb about the 357, the ones that
731.
731.
That Joseph Mengele, I think, studied some of their instruction videos on how to dissect a live human. But as you said about the Hiroshima Museum, that's very kind of neutral, just the facts. I've got 2 examples on the other side of that, though, that are extreme one way. Well, no, the other one is fair. The extreme one is the one I told you about at what's this? Yasukuni Shrine, where it's the shrine up in Tokyo, where a lot of the Class A war criminals are interned. And every year, for some reason, Japan does all these great things with ODA, giving money to Asian countries to support their development. And then they can just piss it away with one visit by Abe or now Kishida or any prime minister who goes there to visit, where there's like their version of, I don't know, Hitler's maybe a stretch, but yeah, Tojo Hideki, Matsui, yeah, all the worst guys are interned. There's not what people do in the hospital.
Yes, both, I guess.
Okay, well,
I think different.
You decide. Google.
Different spelling.
So they go there and pay their respects. Okay, and their excuse is always, well, but there's regular soldiers that died there, and that's a good one. But then why don't we take the ashes of those shitheads that weren't good guys who caused the deaths of millions of people? Let's get them out and flush them down the toilet.
Because there are some people, and on the right, and they're probably politically very strong, who are all for those guys.
So those guys go visit every. But anyway, worse than that shrine. I don't really care about the shrine. There's this museum there. It's a history museum. It's called the Yushukan or something. You go in this place, and it's just like a cloud cuckoo land of fiction. I mean, they have. I don't know what they write in Chinese. But they've got in English, maybe they didn't write in Chinese, because I would just think some Chinese person would go off. They've got in English and in Japanese. And what the English says is just unconscionable. It says, like, who was the guy in charge in Nanking? Yamashita or Yamashita, some general in, it's like, me doth thinks he protests too much. Like, it would say, and General Yamashita or whatever, reminded his soldiers, be sure to be kind to all those civilians. And it's like, really? Nanking, you've heard of the rape of Nanking?
The rape of the Nanking.
So what does that mean? When you rape someone, wear a condom? Like, what the fuck is that? So that's just fiction. It's just unbelievable. Like, I'm Canadian. I don't really have a dog in the race, but I thought, this is bullshit. But then, on the other side, and this I thought was fair, go to Okinawa. Have you been to that one in Okinawa?
No, I haven't, because I've never had a car.
Okinawa, if you care, is like 80% of all U.S. bases in Japan are in Okinawa, something that's a point of contention with those people, and a valid one, right? It's like, what the fuck? Didn't we pay enough? Why do we have all this shit going on? Because planes crashing and sometimes servicemen raping girls or drunk driving. But there, they've got a war memorial museum. It's down in that area where there's all those black graves where the emperor always visits. And this tells the true story. Like, Typhoon of Steel, like 10 Japanese, American battleships to every one Japanese, and 10 men to every one. And they just went down there, and it was a bloodbath. But what they told, and which I'd forgotten, was the way Japanese soldiers would hide down in those limestone caves because they didn't want to deal with the shit going up above with all flamethrowers and the, good brave Marines kicking ass. So they were hiding down there and slitting the throats of little kids, Japanese kids, because they were crying. Because it's like they're scared shitless. So down in this dark cave, they hear like thunder up above of all this fighting and bombs and guns. They're crying. So then those cowards, they would cut the throats of these kids and babies to shut them up. And it tells that story in that museum. And it's in Japan.
They also mentioned that, the Japanese soldiers had the regular population so scared that the Americans were going to come and rape and torture everybody.
Yeah, they brainwashed
that they were, and I think they actually believed it too, because what they would do is they would hide civilians in a place, take a couple of grenades and throw it in and kill them. Because they thought maybe they were doing them a favor. The Japanese were not shy to commit suicide, So they would kill a whole bunch of civilians. And the civilians were so scared, they have those famous scenes of them jumping off cliffs, right? Yeah. So the Japanese had them, civilians, so scared that they were killing themselves because they didn't want to get caught by Americans. And then the Americans would come and say, come on with your hands up. Okay. And then the guys were like, what, this is it? You're not going to stab me or torture me? And maybe they were giving them food. And then once they learned
Snickers, right? Yeah, my mom said my mom was in Germany post-war, during the war too. And Germany got hit pretty bad. They were involved in World War II, weren't they?
They were, they were
outliers.
Marginally involved.
My mom, who was a little, from age 3 to 9, she was, growing up with air raid sirens going off every day. And then after the war ended, then the Russians. But when America came, those American...
Great.
Yeah.
The police.
Yeah. Fletch. Worth seeing. yeah, so it was like, oh great, yes, my American servicemen with their Hershey and Snickers bars giving to kids. Hey, little kid, would you like some candy? But I don't want to get into debate about justifying the nuclear bomb, but just because this touches on...
with the nuclear bomb, you just
every time we meet, it
genocide.
comes up. So would you like some coffee? How about a nuclear bomb? How does that sound? Prick. No, but you know what? Because this touches on...
Let's talk more about genocide.
That Okinawa War Museum reminds you of the brutality of that war.
Right. And
Iwo Jima, or Iwo To as they call it now, So... that brutality, I mean, and what justifies my decision to when Truman asked me, Mark, what should we do? I said, you got to do it, man. Because you look at Iwo Jima, you look at Okinawa, and the bloodbath there, they had this plan in like November of that year.
Right from Australia.
Sure. Bataan Death March and shit. But I'm just talking about, U.S. servicemen fighting a ground war in Japan.
Right.
And how many died in Okinawa? I think it was like 12,000. And Iwo Jima also a lot. And they projected numbers. They said if they didn't use those bombs, they had this back. The plan B was this Operation Olympic, which was a ground invasion in November of 45 in Kyushu. So, Kyushu's huge. I mean, Okinawa's like the size of, it's tiny. So Kyushu, you're going to have Marines just land en masse somewhere in Kyushu and just fight their way up the archipelago. And they estimate 500,000 to 1 million dead. And I think if Truman doesn't use those bombs, sorry for the Japanese and all the Obachans and innocent kids who died that day, but collateral damage. And if you've got that bomb and how many Americans died in Hiroshima? Probably maybe a handful of POWs, Nagasaki too. You're derelict in your duty if you're sitting back. I got this bomb, but you know what? I'm going to just send some poor hick from Oklahoma.
No, we're on the same page there. I disagree with Nagasaki, but Hiroshima, I'm
you
all
saved
for.
A lot of American lives, and I think if you're the American president, that's what you got to be.
And if you think like not only American lives, but lives.
Yeah. Exactly.
Probably fewer Japanese people would have died.
Well, they said 500,000 to 1 million. The low estimate was 500,000. And it might have been more. I mean, how do you make those estimates? Well, a number cruncher, it was brutal. Again, you look at Okinawa, and we know that Japan had they still have that kind of gambare, never say die spirit that permeates even society now in a lot of good ways. But, the leadership at the time, you know what they said? Japan's army is 100 million strong.
Yeah, that's the whole population.
That was the population at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen pictures in history books where they're the cute little high school girls in their little sailor uniforms, bayoneting.
You can see those movies in the Nagasaki, bomb museum. And they were simultaneously claiming we were just minding our own business, and yet they show these videos of the junior high school students bayoneting
like a straw man, which
was supposed to be American.
Yeah, they said, okay, aim a little higher because they're a little taller, so you want to gut them. Gut them like
a fish.
Stick them like a pig.
There's an inside joke.
Philippine. That's for another time. So gut them a little higher. You got to aim up here, and they show these little cute girls in like pigtails or ponytails, whatever you call it, spearing some straw man with that was a straw man argument. they're spearing these straw men with bayonets. I mean, or crudely fashioned bayonets. So yeah, it was going to be a bloodbath. So okay, enough of the nuclear.
Okay, so Hiroshima. Where else do you take visitors?
That depends on their interest, right? I mean, nowadays a lot of dorks that aren't my visitors want to go to Pokemon Museum or tech stuff. You couldn't pay me to go.
Glad I don't have those. I would send them on their way. Although my friend Yagna, she's a big Ghibli fan, and I don't mind Ghibli. Unfortunately, every time she comes, it's not enough notice. If you're a Ghibli fan and you want to go to the Ghibli Museum, you got to book months in advance. Luckily don't have any of that.
Yeah, so no tech stuff for me. For me, I think it's more, a lot of times my visitors are, if it's family or close friends, they just want to experience my life. So
you're not a Kyoto fan, so
no. I've by the way, that was spared the atomic bomb. Yeah, always comes back to the bomb by Stimson.
Yeah, because he'd been there on his honeymoon and he loved it.
Don't trash that place. That's a beautiful city. We went there for a honeymoon. Department of War Secretary, that was it. So, Henry Stimson. Kyoto, I mean, I think it's overrated.
You gotta go there once. If you visit Japan, you need to go to Kyoto.
Well, I told them, the family is visiting now. Shout out to Josh and Betsy and their kids. They're staying in Kyoto. They picked that, I guess, because I thought there's more to see there. They asked me what to see. I said Kinkakuji, the Gold Pavilion.
Yeah.
I think it features on Phil Collins' "Take Me Home." Doesn't it appear in there?
I have no idea. It's been a while. But no, you definitely need to see Kinkakuji, the Golden Pavilion.
And it kind of reflects on the pond.
It's amazing.
It looks nice.
And even when there's a ton of people there, you can always get to the front of the fence and you can get a
pushing your way in. Just like the elbow. Do the Messier fucking check.
You get a great picture of the pavilion reflected in the water. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Kiyomizu is so like, or you got to go because everyone always says you got to go. Oh, you got to. What's they always say in New York? Oh, you gotta something George's mom would say. But anyway, I guess it's up there on a hill. Like it's just another temple. However,
not only that, but the approach there is really nice. They have a lot of little shops. It's crowded, insanely crowded with tourists. But you just have to put it in
kind
your
of trinket shops that I guess tourists want to buy that shit. I don't.
And by the way, I don't line up for the bus to get there. You just take a taxi there. And take a taxi back too, especially if you're a family of 4. It's going to cost you almost the same amount.
Josh's family actually hired a car tour for the day. So he's not a taxi, but they should probably found it somewhere online. So he's probably he or she is taking them to all the spots, and their car is always waiting there for them, and that's probably the way to go. Right?
Because I see these huge lines of people lining up for the Kiyomizu bus. And then, that fills up and goes, and then the next people come, and then, it fills up. And then the buses have to contend with traffic, unlike, not like more than the taxis do. Just get in a taxi and go.
And those buses are so damn tiny. I mean, we're pretty tall guys, but I think even regular people, your knees are like this on the bus, on the seat in front of you. Hate the buses. But yeah, it's a place to see. I mean, it's obviously historical value.
And Nara, you can see.
That I prefer.
Yeah, because
Nara's
less people.
On foot, and you can see all the main sites. You go to
from the station, you can just walk. You don't have to take a
nice
bus
walk.
or whatever.
With all those deers, there's all these wild deers out there. You feed them almost annoyingly so they come at you. But not nasty. They're wild, but they're not. They're deers. They're not fucking tigers, saber-toothed tigers. So you feed the deers. You walk to it's a beautiful park, Nara Park, and there's Horyuji's. That's where they have the big the big Buddha. And don't try something that some silly tourists do unless you're really skinny. There's that pillar in the Hyoryuji that the hole at the bottom, they say it's the same size as the nostril of the Buddhist. and they, I don't know if they encourage you, but people like to crawl through it. You don't want to get stuck in that.
Yeah.
You chop it down. There goes the roof of like a building that was built 700 years ago.
No, I think they would grease you up and pull you out with a horse before they chop that
I mean, my
thing
friend
down.
John, who's a really slim guy, he's a runner. He squeezes out. I'm not even going to try that. It's not like my shoulders are like Schwarzenegger. Right? I'm going to get stuck and then.
No, but it's amazing. It's not now, but it was for centuries the largest wooden structure in the world.
Why isn't it now?
And it's a third the size of the original. The original burned down, and then they built one a third of the size, and it isn't now because some building in
Pentagon.
China.
That's the biggest building, but
some building in China now, they built it out of wood, and it's way bigger than that. And there's another building somewhere else that beat it now for size. There's a stadium somewhere, I think, that's made of wood technically,
really?
but I don't think it's 100% wood.
Biggest.
Nara is great. All the deer, and then you can buy these little deer crackers to feed them, and then it's just humongous, and you go through, and they have these huge guardians.
It's really peaceful. Like even with all the crowds, it's like there's a serene silence. I don't know what it is.
And it's so big, you can just kind of spread out. Everyone can
but not too big where you can't. We'll do it all on foot.
You can totally walk on foot.
It's a nice walk tour, as is this city. It's a small city, relatively speaking, and you can walk from down the harbor, where you guys talk about the harbor land, and which kind of a restaurant entertainment district, and then through the Chinatown, which really sucks. Chinatown, come on, just go to Toronto or for San Francisco. But then walk up to the foreign settlements.
I like the Chinatown here.
Really? The food sucks, though.
It depends. You really got to watch out where you're going. You got to learn where the good places are. There are a couple of places that are.
That always surprised me. It's like China. It's like you're so close to Japan. Why couldn't you do the food better? Like in Toronto, I haven't been to Toronto's Chinatown. That's really good, authentic stuff, and not for chicken balls and. Canadian Chinese food, the real stuff. Like
you got to know where to go. But it's a nice little stroll, and you can get some.
It's worth going, but it's not worth eating it. But But the city's kind of doable on foot for 5 minutes.
But Nara, half a day max. You don't need any more than that to stay in Nara. Go in the morning and have lunch and then go somewhere else, or go after lunch and then come back in the evening. And don't stay in Nara. Just stay somewhere like in Osaka or Kyoto. Kyoto to Nara is not as good as Osaka to Nara, right? Stay in Osaka and go to Nara for a day.
I think as far as castles go, obviously Himeji Castle for the inside. For the outside, I think Osaka Joe Cohen is great.
Osaka Castle Park is great.
It sits majestically up there on the hill. It's surrounded by all green. Like in front of Himeji Castle sits up there nicely too, but in front of it's just like a dirt field.
No, but you walk around and they have a really nice garden and they have the stream.
Yeah, but I still like the surroundings of Osaka Castle better. But don't go in Osaka Castle.
No.
Like you just feel like you're you're not in a castle. There's an elevator for starters. No castles had elevators, but the interior feels like a museum. Like it just square walls, like a.
If you're extremely interested in seeing old scrolls and pictures and stuff like that, sure, go in. But I would walk around there and not go in. Hey, bring a little bento box or something like that, and if the weather's nice, just sit outside of it and have a beer and eat your lunch.
Yeah, the park is beautiful. A lot of places you can eat in shade and a lot of green.
But Himeji, on the other hand, I recommend you definitely go in because it is. All original, and you can go in and walk all the way to the top.
That's what I was saying. Himeji for the inside.
Another thing about Himeji Castle is you go around. They have a great museum next to it, by the way. The Himeji, I don't know, something cultural museum. It's a great museum, but then if you keep going around, you get to this garden. The garden Gorakuen, I forget, but they have a tea room in there, and you can have like a lunch, like the kaiseki ryori with a whole bunch of like different little. Tastes of 12 or 16 different things, a little lunch. You can have beer too, I think, but you can have real matcha, green tea. So that's a nice experience. And that's
maybe you should just tell me where you should take people.
Well, it's my podcast. I can contribute if I want. So
when you're spoken to.
Himeji Castle, Osaka Castle, Kyoto, those are the big spots. Great restaurant recommendations.
A small disappointment for me was Tojimbo.
I like Tojimbo, but you got to be in that area.
Well, you got to be where the drive to Fukui.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Somebody gave me my first school students gave me like a postcard set, or
I think we have a clip of Tojimbo.
And Tojimbo, I look at this picture, I'm like, wow, this is like the Black Cliffs of Dover. It's like, dark and, very awe-inspiring. It looks really high and everything.
Let me guess, you went there and you thought, I could jump that.
Yeah. And that's what people do, unfortunately. It's famous as a suicide spot. But what made it disappointing was I went out of order. Well, there was no order to this stuff, but I went to, have you been to Wakayama near Shirahama? There's those Sandambeki.
I think I've been.
You've been to Shirahama, right? The White Beach?
because there's a place you can go inside the caves near there, right?
A couple kilometers away from that, so going east or northeast, there's this place called Sandambeki, and they're kind of the more like red, like in France, they're kind of reddish or a little more gold than that. Dirt color, they're really beautiful cliffs, and they're really high. Well. I thought, wow, these are great. Wow, Tojimbo must be amazing. Because I'd never heard of these. No one's ever heard of these. People from overseas. And I thought, wow, these are really awe-inspiring. The great view, the water crashes against them. Beautiful blue sea you're looking out at, the contrast. Then I went to Tojimbo, and they're way smaller. It's like, what is this? I feel like committing suicide. And that's what people do. That's probably why all the suicides happen. People go to Sandambeki and think, these are great. I got to go to Tojimbo. They go to Tojimbo. Great name, by the way, Tojimbo.
So the story of Tojimbo is that lovers of different castes who were forbidden to be together or forbidden to marry for whatever reasons, they would go and together they would jump off this cliff. And when you jumped off, the water, you'd probably die when you hit the rocks or the water, and then the water would take you away and they'd basically never find your body.
That's similar to the Two Lovers Point story in Guam. Have you been there? That's a cliff where two lovers met. That Romeo and Juliet Guam version. But yeah, so this is a famous suicide spot. And as you know, that side of Japan, the Sea of Japan side, is known as the darker side. The weather isn't they don't get as much sunlight as the certainly Wakayama.
Oddly, they have really nice beaches and like clearer water than down here because there's more factories. But
it's
the
not as much
weather's-
sunlight,
yeah.
so it's kind of dark. So that puts people with sad. It's cloudy, shitty. I'm definitely going to kill myself
No,
today.
when I came here, my company headquarters was up in Fukui, and they asked me, "Why don't you come teach in Fukui?" I was like, "No, thank you. Every time I go there, I have to buy an umbrella.
Right.
It's like raining every time I go there. It snows in the wintertime.
Remember, I had to reward that Fukui girl. That's a story for another day.
Another day.
But yeah, so Jimbo was a disappointment. I wasn't like slit my wrists about it disappointing, but it was
If
like,
you're a huge like Zen meditation fan, though, in Fukui there's Eiheiji, which is one of these places you can actually, I think you pay. You can go and you can like stay overnight, or you can do a whole like weekend retreat, and all you do is you live like the monks do, in silence. You don't say anything. Yeah, I don't know. And you spend your whole day meditating.
maybe we've got to do that. So like, fuck.
Meditating.
Just look
I'd
at
rather
us.
go to Iwo Jima, which is something we talked about that is actually possible. You can take
Is it
flight
now?
there.
You need special permission.
You
Like,
do, but
really?
you can take flights, and they
What do
leave
they
from
land?
Tokyo.
There's a runway there?
They
No, you have
land.
the boat. You don't land on the island. I don't think there's a runway.
No, I think so. I think, or you land. Yeah, you land there or near there,
Right,
and
right.
then you can walk around for a few hours, and then they take you back.
And we
So
could
you
write
can't stay
letters to
there.
our fathers.
Oh. Okay, so something else I want. Something else I
Yeah,
wanted to
those
talk
places
about
to see.
is so unique to you. So places to take Japanese visitors. I think we did that. Something unique to you that I wanted to talk about is you've probably had dinner with Japanese families more than anybody else. I don't know how interesting or deep this conversation is, but it's just something unique to you because you're a really popular teacher, and in a small town, everybody knew you. Every time we walked around somewhere, somebody would go, "Mark Sensei," and then you would get invited to people's houses who weren't fucking liars, and then you would have dinner with people. And I've been to Japanese people's houses for dinner a few times, but not as much as Mark. In fact, I would bet probably almost nobody in Japan has had dinner in various Japanese families as much as you have. So tell me your experience of like dining with Japanese families.
It's not that exciting, but probably more just to buttress your point. One time I was at Goto-san, an old friend of ours, his house up in Kanzaki, kind of mid-central north Hyogo. And his kids, he has two boys, they were like junior high school age, 13, 15, around there. And after dinner, they got up and started clearing off the table. And now this is probably like the 100th time I'd been at, not exaggerating, like many times I'd been to a home for dinner. I never saw that. So I said to him, "Wow, Goto-san, your kids are really good." And he said, "Why?" He said, "Well, look at how they're helping out your wife clearing off the table." And he's a very proud Japanese guy. Across his arm, he said, "Of course they're," in Japanese he said it, "of course they are, Japanese kids." I'm like, well, that's not most of the Japanese kids I've seen. And he said, "Oh, well, you know what you're talking about." And then I said to him, I said, "Well, who's been to more Japanese homes for dinner, you or me?"
Yeah.
And then he started laughing the way he could laugh. I said, so now you're probably right. It was an aberration. So yeah, like how many times, probably Japanese people don't do that. They don't entertain. Let's come over to the Tanaka's house for dinner. And then next week it's the Hasegawa's. It's not something that's really done, but we were kind of guests. So,
You and I had a dinner at his place.
Sure. I've been there several times.
And so-
Great rice, by the way. Kanzaki rice.
Yeah. And so it is half friendly because we were really friendly with Goto-san. He was a good friend. And, but there are, protocols for eating, right? I mean, there's politeness that is maintained, right? It's not
Yeah,
just a
well,
free-for-all.
I mean, okay, I see he's digging for these kind of cultural things that people read in those manner books, which, by the way, I read when I got here, an etiquette book somebody gave me. Etiquette, me. It's like, what? What's that? Etiquette, what's that? No, but this was this really held up. I recommend it for anyone. I should find a title of this
Yeah,
book.
I mean,
There's a little book.
go online and find a
Yeah, probably easy to find
page
now.
on.
But that actual book was great because it touched everything.
Yeah.
Like the thing, okay, about
That's like you touch everything.
Yeah, it was, I mean, right down to going to funerals, dating, visiting someone's house, and for dinner. I mean, obviously they take off his shoes at the entrance, which we always did in Canada anyway. But as far as like, the sort of, I'd blow people away because in a Japanese dinner, could be a restaurant too, not just at home, when there's a communal plate that everyone digs from, like let's say they had a bunch of fried chicken or something in there, invert which is always sounds funny. You flip your chopsticks around, so the part that you were holding in your dirty hand, although ostensibly they're clean because
it's kind of up here, right? That part.
You flip your chopsticks around, so the part that goes in your mouth is now on the other end, and then you use the clean end that hasn't been in your mouth to take from a communal pot, serve yourself, and then you flip them back around. When I did that, people go, "Oh wow, great Japanese man," and I'm like, come on, fucking hey, what are you guys doing?
And what do you bring to dinner?
Well, that was funny. I would always bring cake is a good one because Japanese love cake, and I would bring. Instead of one cake, because you could go wrong and get chocolate and you get some kid who's got nut allergy or whatever. So you get those, so the cake shops here, you can buy a piece of cheesecake, piece of chocolate, fruit tart, and a variety pack. So there's 6 people, I'd buy 6 pieces of cake. And I use the Markinuichi Saksen, Markinuichi strategy. Every piece is one that I like. Because I don't know what you like. And some dummies like that Mont Blanc, don't get me started. So who wants to eat sandy Mont Blanc? I get 6 pieces that I like. I let, okay, you guys choose first, be the real gentleman thing.
You're a great guest, Mark.
Right, yeah. Bring everything I like. Well, but think about it. It's smart. Because I don't know what you like. So I'm going to get everything
calculating.
I like. You get everything. You get all things I like. Because I can find 6 pieces of cake I like. Get all the ones I like. So
it's following the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do.
Exactly.
Like, well,
I'd be pissed off if someone gave me Mont Blanc. I'm not going to give it to you. So I take all the cakes I like, bring them there, and then I let, you guys first, they take, and whatever's left over, it's going to be a winning bet. Although somehow I'm still not completely satisfied because
you never are.
He was number 5 out of 6 in my ranking. Because inside you got ranking, I like them all, but this is number 1. Anyway, so I bring this cake, and Yuichi would say the same things too. So you bring the cake, and then Mother, I understand. She puts it back in the kitchen. Food and merriment is going on. You're chatting for 2 or 3 hours, eating, drinking, and then after dinner, out comes the kaki. Like, okay, I like kaki, parsimon. So I like fruit, but where's my cake? And what are you guys going to do with it?
Yeah. Like, wait till I leave. Because it's tradition in most Asian countries, when you receive a gift, you don't open it in front of them because you don't want to save face. It saves you from all the awkwardness of having to pretend you like it what if somebody doesn't want to eat it or whatever. So you set it aside.
But Yuichi finds the same thing, because that was his words. He's like,
he's Japanese.
He's like, well, I like parsimon. It's like when you're in Idaho. It's like, you got to have potatoes. Yeah. Well, anyway. So yeah, I was like, well, I like parsimon. I like all fruit, but where's my cake? And it's one thing if it's a family of 4, but I was at a party once where it was like a couple families, so about like 10 pieces. And you're only 4 people. What are you going to do with all those cake? They got to be eaten today. So again, they're not trying to cheat me out of my cake. It's partly what he says. And sometimes I think they just forgot. It's like they put it, because a lot of times at these home parties, the mother is working like a dog around back. By the way, as he may tell you, or I'll tell you today, Oku-san is what they call a wife. That actually means person in the back. So when they talk about in Japan, woman walking 2 steps behind, that's a little bit overdone. We never talked about her before, image of girls when we come to Japan. But the Oku-san's a lady in the back. You really see these home parties because it's rare that she's sitting joining you. She is nonstop because their hospitality, the omotenashi, they want to be great hosts. They're back and forth the kitchen, always getting new food, getting you another drink and all that. So they're working like dogs, and they're really in the oku, like in the back. Like you're like, where's your wife? Oh, don't worry about her. So we're all having fun talking. She's working like a dog. I think with all this chaos, I think sometimes they just forget it because you got these, the cake has to be eaten today, 10 pieces of cake. If you don't eat them today, you got stuck tomorrow. Family of 4 with 10 pieces of cake.
Let me just add that the preferred term, especially these days, is tsuma.
Right, but there's kanai. That means inside the house again. So yeah, there's like 6 terms for my
wife. 5 of them are rude.
Yeah, or like get in the bag, bitch. No, get the work done. So there's all my master was Shujin-san. Mm-hmm. That's like master.
Shujin, husband, means master.
Yeah. They're onto something there. I think it's time for exaggerated wink. Just get in the back. Yeah. So that's about the gift giving. What else do you want to know? Flipping the chopsticks. So there's not a lot to say about.
No, but then you and always there's like you have your regular conversation, and then food is brought out. Of course, like in our society, where you're not supposed, if you don't know, in your society wherever you are, you're not supposed to touch food before everyone's seated and everything's out there, and then. Yeah, they say you
it's like a starting gun.
Because like I said with in the podcast with Yagna, Japanese love beginnings and endings to things. So everybody gets a drink, and then you say, "Kanpai."
Yeah, you don't eat before you drink. Always the kanpai first.
Yeah, cheers first.
Small talk. Cheers, hey, kanpai.
Cheers, kanpai, and then you touch everybody. You drink, and then everybody will say "itadakimasu," which means
I say these days.
I humbly receive. And you're just basically thanking the gods.
It's not religious at all. It's not really like...
It comes from Shintoism. You're thanking the gods. You're thanking the people.
It's not grace.
You're thanking the people who've prepared the food, the both the mother of the family, and for the father who's paid for it, and for the farmer who's growing it. Because they actually think, because it's rude to like leave rice behind, and old Japanese used to say, farmer worked hard to make that rice, and you're gonna damn well eat it. So so you all start together, and then the banter continues.
Yeah. And another thing surprising I found at so many homes was they always have the TV up. Because a lot of times the room is kind of like this. There's no demarcation between the kitchen, living room, or sometimes we'd be on a tatami mat, like the straw mat floor. Something I hate because I'm not good at seeing notice. And the Seiza is even worse. But TV on, and one of the reasons I think that is something that you and I probably don't have an issue with, but Japanese, I don't know. I want to say we don't like silence, but
they like
there's got to be some, I don't know.
Silence. They call it ma. The silence.
But then it's always true. What's with the TV? So it's almost contradictory.
I think it's just habit. I think it's habit.
TV on. Can we turn that down? So
I have to ask them. Can we turn the TV off? And there's sure.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Sometimes I just take the control out of their hands and I smash it. I throw it out the window. That's a story I got later about throwing the car keys away. So I think it's a little bit that. I think it's kind of like BGM. As much as they're comfortable with silence, I think sometimes Japanese feel awkward if there's got to be something, some entertainment going. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. But but a lot of people back home do it. My father used to be like working downstairs, like doing something in the rec room, and nobody's watching TV, so I turned it off, and my dad would say, leave the TV on. I said, nobody's watching it. I said, leave it on. Okay, because he just wants the background. I guess it's comforting. That's probably what it is. It's comforting when you have it on your whole life.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that stands out at home visits. So what else? Etiquette stuff is, read the book.
Well, I guess I brought up the topic and it ended up not being a really fruitful one.
I'm bored and it's me talking.
Okay, but here's something I wanted to ask you about too, because we're both on the same page of this, busting the myth of the guy who comes from abroad and comes to Japan, and
like
all of a sudden,
of a sudden
is the Fonz is just has that before I came for me to Japan, Japanese girls are gonna love you, and I was like, there's no way that's true, because I know enough about girls here. And I think Asian girls have got to be a lot shyer. That was my view then, and my stereotypical view of somebody who didn't know anything. And now my continued view of somebody who knows, they're even shyer than other countries. And there's no way an Asian girl is going to come up to you and talk to you because she's interested. With a few exceptions over my long period here, there have been like only a couple of exceptions. So we've talked about this before.
That's overdone.
Yeah.
I had to say, actually, you were, if it's true, you just said you were more aware than I would be. I never gave much thought. I remember I was at a barbecue somewhere, and a couple of cops, Metro Toronto cops, there's these police that I got on well with, who were at this barbecue. And when I told them I'm going to Japan, like in a month or whatever, this was the summer before I came here, and they were like, oh, tall guy like you, blue eyes, you could be like Elvis over there. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, I never gave it a thought that, oh, that's true or not true. I just, oh, really? Because I was doing okay back in North America at that time. I had a nice girlfriend and one in California. I don't have to say that. Sorry, Marianne and Heather. Blonde, brunette, different coasts. So I was doing good. I wasn't going to Japan to get ready.
If it's a different country, it's not true.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I had the jurisdiction pass. But so I wasn't coming to Japan like you, I think, to get laid. We were okay back home because there are some losers out there. We can get to that later. Zeros to heroes.
Well, right now
that's also true.
Because if you're a loser back home, you don't have you've got a little bit of extra padding on you, and you're kind of a oh shucks guy, and you have zero game with girls. When you come here and you start meeting a few people or get introduced, you're probably going to get a girlfriend. Yeah. Way better quality than you would back home. Right. So I'll give you that.
Part's true. Like we said, zero to hero, the guy who's never getting a sniff back home can maybe get something here. Not maybe, most probably can. And maybe not our quality, but hey, better than yours should get anyway.
Yeah.
So he's going to be okay. So that sense, it's easier. But the idea that you roll out of bed, snap your fingers like the fawns and chicks are lining up for dollar kisses ain't going to happen.
And why? Reasons why?
Well, we both came to small towns. I mean, maybe it would have been different if we were in Osaka or Tokyo. I mean, you always hear about these, what they used to call the pig and whistle, they'd call it, not a meat market.
Well, the gaijin bars.
Yeah, these kind of gaijin bars where guys would come, and there'd be those gaijin hunters, those girls who generally aren't that good looking. The kind of backpacker type. They've lived abroad.
Huge generalization,
but
no, there were some foreigner bars, and girls wanted to go to them not because they wanted to screw foreign guys, but they were looking for either practice their English or looking for a boyfriend or whatever, and or I'm saying, hey, women need to get laid too, so some of them were probably doing that.
Like you always say, one of the greatest things I quote you on sometimes, I'm actually great at quoting on some, is girls like sex too.
Oh yeah, I'd say they enjoy it more than guys do when it's done properly.
At least our bitches.
Oh yeah.
So back to us. So when I come here, and I'm not coming here with any expectation about a lot of stuff, and that worked really well for me. You didn't ask, but as far as having no culture shock, I came here expecting everything to be different. And therefore, when stuff was similar, it's like, oh,
yeah, me too.
Okay, it's like this isn't that different. Sun still comes up in the west. But I get here, and it certainly wasn't like that. And I think what was missing was maybe for you too. I think people have told me, just saying, that I've got a bit of the gift of the gab, and maybe we have a bit of a sense of humor, and that really works back home. I mean, along with this isn't enough. So, but the making girls laugh is, and I'm stripped of my biggest weapon.
Right. So even if you have serious game back home, come here and now you can't talk. And anybody with game knows that the way to get a woman is by conversation. They need some. They need some.
It's just, I don't think it's a rude gesture. But you can't just go like a gorilla. But that's how you felt sometimes. It's like manje. Eat. What? Like, exactly.
Yeah, you can't caveman your way through any
conversation. You want to. All us Neanderthals want to be able to do that, but you can't.
So anybody with game has game because they're good talker. They're funny. They
funny
can make
works
people
for me.
laugh. Yeah. And so, then you come here, you have none of that.
Yeah.
And so what, you think you're gonna, and then you get your remedial Japanese so you can speak at a 6th grade level.
Or you buy some rupees. No, we don't advocate drugging girls.
We do it, but we don't advocate it. You get your remedial level Japanese after a few months of studying, and then you think you're gonna go and impress a girl with your Japanese,
and you also learn "faki saki $10 isn't Japanese."
No, it's not. Yeah, found out that
damn that Full Metal Jacket. Love you long time, Joe.
Yeah, that is not a documentary. I found out.
Love you long time, Joe.
And then also,
best lines ever.
So we lived in a small town, and that worked as a huge detriment to me because, especially at that time, I had long hair. So, but even if I was like prim, proper guy, well spoken, and even they give me a lot of shit about my ponytail, and even if I could speak perfect Japanese, girls aren't going to want to go out and be seen, especially at that time. they don't want to be go out and seen with me walking around town. That like, oh, that
I didn't want to go around walking around town with you.
Well, that's a good point.
It's partly true.
I didn't want to walk around town just being myself.
You walk by mirrors and you just shut it.
Yeah, I know. So the girls didn't want to go out seeing around town some foreign guy and get some reputation as some like foreigner lover or foreigner hunter or whatever. So when I started dating, I mean, there were girls in my hometown that I ended up going out. My Japanese hometown that I ended up dating. But more of my dating came later when I started going to Osaka and going to Kobe with girls who didn't really care much because we were in Kobe when there's 1.5 million people. You could walk around every day for 10 days and not meet anybody you know. So I think there's a little bit less pressure there. But yeah, the thing you're just going to come here and immediately get chicks. No, it's not.
At least not for us. Or maybe we're just really ugly guys or an exception. But
except I think, you have a thing what you said about Kobe or Osaka, because if you're in a big city, there are going to be more girls who can speak English more, and so then you have your gift back.
Yeah, exactly. So again, when we talk about the 0 to hero too, this guy might be a total dork with like not much to say, not real funny. But when she's not slighting the girl's English level, but she's not going to get the nuance in most cases. It's not going to be as fluid. So she won't realize, wow, this guy's a real dork. He doesn't know how to, but he speaks English and I want to speak English. So that's enough.
Well, and I'll give you this. If you're the kind of guy who can who just has no shame or or no fear of rejection or just approach anybody anywhere. Yeah. Numbers wise.
Yeah, but that would be true back home then too.
Yeah. It's true back home. It's true here. Yeah. So, but if you've got game back home and then you have a certain amount of Japanese level like we do now, then it gets easier because you get your Japanese version of your game.
Well, so the key is the communication and language, because without, like, once again, for anyone watching back there, you don't just fall off the train, and maybe somebody does, or fall out of the plane, and you got girls like swooning. So that doesn't happen, regrettably. But also through adversity comes strength. We paid our dues.
Oh yeah,
bought the rupees. No,
I paid my dues and $5 coffees. For
$8 coffees. This guy, he used to go to this Aoyama Coffee.
Aoyama Coffee shop,
on Mekikan-sen in Kakogawa, and I'd say, well, I always go there. This waitress that I really like, she's there as a pretty waitress. There's a lot in coffee shops. And he'd go there every time and sit there and no refills, or he'd have his $8 coffee. And
practice my Japanese. That was one good thing.
That's what I was just going to go back to.
Study Japanese and practice Japanese.
What is it that, necessity is the mother of invention, right? If anything's going to switch you on to learning the language, if you're like us, hey, chicks, that's a great incentive. I want to talk to this cute girl, and it doesn't work. So you better learn the spiel. So that was a great incentive to learn Japanese, and why we often say too, thank you so much that my initial landing in Japan was in Kakogawa.
Oh yeah.
If we would have, I got to say, for me, you're a little better with languages, a lot better with foreign languages. Coming to Osaka or Kobe, where you maybe, I like to think I wouldn't have done that anyway, but gravitate to other foreigners or hang out with Japanese.
It's so easy
it's
when
easier,
it's like, the guys are at the Irish pub and I'm going to go there, and you just talk English all night, and then...
Yeah, and then they become your friends because they're maybe nice guys.
Sure.
And you've got to kind of forcibly extricate yourself from that circle, which it wasn't forced for me, or probably you too. I was in a town with about 14 foreigners, like with you and I were... two of them. Well, when I came, you weren't even there. So very few people, foreign people, and the Japanese, even the English teachers, the people I worked with, nice people, but some of their English was just terrible.
Yeah. So if I wanted to date a friend, to communicate, to ask a question at a shop, like, does this come in black? What does this button do? I just had to learn Japanese because there was no...
Sink or swim. So being there first, we could get the initial skills and build on that, whereas a big city wouldn't have worked that way. So I'm so grateful to so many times, on so many levels, but the language thing is one, that I started in a smaller town, Kakogawa. It's about 30 minutes by express train from where we sit. It's 50 kilometers from Kobe.
If you want to learn a language, just immerse yourself. So you had your okonomiyaki guys. You used to go with...
those guys.
Just Japanese. I don't know what anybody's saying. And then you say your few things, and then you do that week after week after week. And then eventually you're speaking like they do.
And I loved it. Those guys, one guy was a fisherman, like a fishmonger. The other guy was a train conductor for the Kakogawa line,
I didn't know.
Inaka line, Otani-san. And yeah, and they didn't speak English. They didn't care to speak English. That was the best.
They didn't want you to speak English.
Because I've rarely had it, but we've come across people in Japan that you kind of sense they almost want to be your friend so they can work on their English. They look at their kind of free. And on the one hand, good for them, because we always tell our students, anytime you get a chance to use your English, do it. And being in Japan, those opportunities are limited. But there's a point where it's, you know what,
I've actually had this girl, I told you about this. I was on a date, and the girl said, I was speaking Japanese, and she said, no. She put her hand out like this. No. She said, speak English.
Wow.
I was like, no, I'll speak whatever fucking language I want to speak. I control my mouth. You want to practice your English, you speak English, and I want to practice my Japanese.
Wow, that's really extreme. Yeah. I mean, the closest I've been to that is kind of when you speak Japanese and answer in English. It's like, okay, well, just do that. But really, like you'd think when you speak to someone in a certain language, they reply back in that.
Well, I told her I'm going to have sex with you 3 or 4 more times, and then that's it.
And she kept saying no.
No, wait. Actually, we never actually got there. Because we were on our first or second date, and I was like, no, bye. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other language thing was key, but a lot of things about being in a small town first.
The culture, you just get right in it. This is the way Japanese live. It's it's not modernized.
Going back to what you said earlier about home parties, I mean, a lot fewer, again, not that I'm looking for like a free dinner at someone's house, but a lot fewer home parties you go to when you live in big cities. There's a lot of options. You go out and you eat in the city at a restaurant.
Japanese usually do that anyway, by the way. It's not often that they'll invite people to their homes. Usually when they want to have a dinner, they'll meet in a restaurant. But yeah.
I'm not doing one of those George W. Bush, remember, against H.W. against Clinton. They said about him looking at his watch, he said, during the debate.
Oh.
And they said, wow, that would kill him. Even though I heard the backstory to that was Clinton was giving a long-winded answer. So he was looking at his watch doing kind of one of these things.
Oh, yeah.
But it always gets replayed that he really lost a lot of support when during this presidential debate, George H.W. Bush looked at his watch like he's got to be somewhere more important.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be, I have to be somewhere important, but not yet. So we're still good for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can edit that part out if you want. In fact, can I pause for a second? I just want to check because my friend Josh is coming with his Osaka, and he probably wants to know where and when we're going to meet. So I better.
No problem. It's one thing about having people visit, because I have people visiting, even Japanese people visiting from like the Kanto area, or my parents visiting me, and then somebody else will visit me, and then I take them around. I never get tired of just seeing all these places again and again. Like I've been to the Golden Pavilion 25 times. It's nuts. And but every single time I just stand there and I go, wow,
that's a good idea.
How about funny, interesting, embarrassing experiences, especially like maybe when you first came to Japan? I know you have your peanut butter story.
Want me to share that?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Okay, I guess you'll edit that part out.
No, you were shopping.
I know, but now you gave away the punchline.
No, I didn't.
You'll see. I'll tell the story. You see if he gave away the punchline.
Okay, no. You can start over.
Wait a second. No, you didn't.
I didn't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You set me up early morning. It's not about early morning, is it? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. As I said, no big shock things for me. I mean, things were different, but Japan, I expected that. But shopping was a challenge because I couldn't read shit, right?
Yeah.
And some stuff is packaged deceptively. Not intentionally, I don't think.
Sometimes it's obvious, that's a fish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck.
It's a duck.
So one was going across the street to the supermarket and I bought some milk. Pretty easy, milk, carton. I make my coffee the next morning. I pour my milk in and it comes all out lumpy. I'm like, what the hell? I look at the expiration date. It says like a week away. It's like, can't be that. So I asked some Japanese friend, the first person I saw, like in the hallway. I lived in like an apartment with an indoor roka hallway. And I said, what's with this milk? They said, it's not milk. It's like a yogurt drink. They have it in a carton here. So bihidas yogurt drink. Or it's probably not even called it, but something bihidas. So So that sucked. So I actually like yogurt, but I just didn't expect it.
Coffee ruined.
And splashing coffee all over the place. It was like a tsunami of coffee. So that was a one bummer. And then, nowadays you can buy peanut butter very readily, easily, anywhere at a lot of these foreign shops. But back when I got here, peanut butter, you had to go to those foreign
Even
shops.
now in a regular Japanese supermarket, you will not find peanut butter.
Well, it's harder. But it's a lot harder than back home. So I'm looking everywhere for, I just want to taste of home. Sometimes I have toast in the morning and maybe having peanut butter and jam on there. So I'm looking around, peanut butter. I'm looking all around. I can't find peanut butter anywhere. And then I go D-Land. It was an old crappy, cheap department store, supermarket in Kakugawa. Don't know why I thought they'd have it there. So I go in there and I'm like, exhausting all my sources of possible peanut butter. I go there, I find this big freaking plastic, like it looked like organic peanut butter. My mom used to get it where you grind it yourself and it's like just peanuts, nothing else, peanuts.
Yes.
So that's this organic peanut butter. So fuck yeah, and it was big. I buy this whole this container. It's a clear plastic so you can see inside. It's clearly peanut butter. Take it home. I make my toast the next morning. I spread it all over the peanut butter. My coffee, this time with milk. I learned that lesson. It won't be full again. I spread the peanut butter. I take a bite, and it's miso. The miso paste that people use to make miso soup.
Won't be fooled again.
You know what they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, what? You won't get fooled again. Cue this, starts a CSI New York.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, shit, and I love miso soup, but miso toast doesn't work. Salt is, I was like,
don't try that at home, kids.
Yeah. When I tell that story at the dojin, like a senior college, I did once in Chicago. The place, it was videotaped, and I saw the place busted up laughing. I don't think it's all that funny. I still have a little bit of trauma. Shocking, brutally salty, but everyone just laughed. It's like, I guess in this image, what kind of dumbass is going to spread miso paste, which is really concentrated. Like you need a little bit of that to make it.
Even to this day, you can't look at miso without breaking out in sweat.
Yeah. And then another trauma story. This was, this really kind of was more trauma. Yakitori. I'd been in Japan 3 weeks, got food poisoning.
Oh yeah.
I bought some yakitori, or what we aforementioned chicken skewers. Bought them it was in the summer. Bought them from a supermarket. Brought some home. Didn't eat them all. Put them in the in the fridge. Next day, anyway, long and short of it, I got what turned out to be what they call Campylobacter. If you've ever had this, it's like people can die of this because it's a parasite that starts eating your innards, namely your intestines. Don't try this at home. And I'm like, I was just, as the first couple of mornings, I woke up and I'm like sweating buckets and I'm like really in pain. And I thought, but I didn't want to call our handlers at the city hall, the Board of Education. He's like, I want to look like some wussy, look at this Canadian guy, he's got a tummy, he's got a call. So I gummed, I stuck it out for like a day or two. And I'm like, every now and then I just feel like I'd be like fine like this and shit, like it was like Rocky's throwing me uppercuts or Clubber Lang. Just slamming me, and I was like, holy shit, this hurts. So I gummed for a few days, finally get to hospital. They do a Tenteki Matsumoto Byoin in Kakugawa. They said, oh, we can't help this guy. Then they moved me to Kakugawa Shiminbyo in the city hospital. And they asked a few questions. They could view, I guess they took some sample of something, whatever crop I had left, because I was literally shitting blood. I thought, what's that? Tomato? I didn't eat any tomato, but it turns out this parasite eats away at your intestine, starts eating a hole. And so that's the blood, your internal bleeding. So again, if you're in some, poor country with no medical treatment and you just try to gammon, like most stuff will go away, but this doesn't. You just, you'd eat out your insides and you'd probably die of exsanguination. He bled out in this way. So, so I had my first overnight stay in my life in a hospital in Japan, 5 nights.
And everybody likes talking about things you don't understand.
It was so boring. But that was the funny thing. I learned the word kosei bushitsu. That's antibiotic. I learned fukusayo, that's side effect. I learned geri, which is diarrhea. But if someone was to say neko, cat, or dog, it's what the hell are these people talking about? So I had some real that, and
you learn the words the hard way, as we say.
Learn by necessity. I'm like, what are these guys talking about? Finger up that. No, okay, don't go there. So it was like my first And again, learn by necessity. And I've been in Japan 3 weeks, and I'm still learning how to say, where is the bank, or how much are these? And meanwhile, I knew words like antibiotics,
side effects,
diarrhea, stuff like that. In my 3rd week, so I was just like throwing those words. I tried to work those words into every conversation to meet chicks.
Diarrhea is an easy one because Japanese will regularly just tell you they have diarrhea.
Yes. Well, that's another. Okay, this is a
really
topic again for another day. The privacy thing. We can talk about that another day. They're really private on stuff that we don't care about.
Yeah.
And then on the stuff there, it's like kind of too much information, as you just said. I remember being in a school staff room, and the kids could enter the staff room in Japan, and they came to the staff room, and a little girl comes, junior high school, 14 years old, and she's like, since I don't feel well, and she's like, oh, what's wrong? Like, I have a headache. And she says, do you have, and geri wa? She says, and I'm like, geri, what's that? Because I'm like, again, this is the learning. All the time you're hearing these words, and what does this mean? So I look in my little paper dictionary in the day, geri, diarrhea. It's like, too much information. We don't have to ask this 14-year-old girl. You're like, shit, you're running shit. I don't want that image, right? Yeah. But they're like, freely giddy, let's talk about, are you shitting?
And people will say, like, what they don't say I have diarrhea, they say, onaka ga itai, which means my stomach hurts, which means I have diarrhea.
Well, that's what we say. Stop right there. Stomach hurts, I'm good. Don't have to tell me the...
But for us, stomach is actually this, and my tummy is different. But when they say my stomach hurts, what they mean is they have diarrhea. And it's like, don't even say that. Just say like, because some of my students will say, oh, sensei, onaka ga itai. It's like, just ask me to go to the washroom, or don't even ask, just leave, just go to the washroom. But it's always too much information.
And sounds like geri is another one, seri. We work at women's universities, and sometimes girls say, with us in the room, I'm not feeling so good. And the girl will say, Seri, like, are you on your period? It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, they'll just say, Seri de onaka itai. And it's like,
So I won't be asking you out tonight. No. To our students. But yeah, like, they're talking Seri and geri all the time in schools, where we wouldn't touch that in our country, even before the Me Too movement or anything else. It's just like, don't need to know. Got stomach ache. But yeah, so my 5 days in the hospital, first time in my life.
5 days?
5 days.
Oh my God.
5 days, 4 nights, all expenses paid. No.
But did you have what is it? Food poisoning a different time, or was that the one time?
No, I've had a couple times, but that was the worst. I mean, I've never been hospitalized for it in my life.
Because when I came to Japan, I had it, and I think it was from oysters that I had with the Yachio.
You got over that, like.
Well, it took about 3 days, but I was chained to the washroom, and it was coming out both ends, and I didn't, and I had to time it. So I run to my car, because I didn't have a phone in my place. I had to run to my car
and use the bat phone.
Drive.
You didn't have a phone in the car either?
Drive to a payphone, call my company, and tell them, it's like, I can't go teach. I can barely even have this conversation. Can you cancel my classes for me? I got to go by, and then drive back home.
And they said, wait, is it getting? Tell us more.
Yeah. And so, and there was like, I was so weak I couldn't stand up. And I didn't have much food at home. And then I had a lesson with Sachiko. I had a private student. She came over and I was like, oh, it's supposed to be my lesson. I said, Sachiko, I'm sick, go away. And I didn't know what happened. So anyway, it was funny. She came back and she had a huge basket of fruit and some Pocari Sweat. This is like a sports drink, and then and she brought it to my door, and she said, Brent, food, drinks. And then I went and I opened the door, and she said, here, this is for you. And I was like, oh, thanks, because I didn't know what I thought. I was pretty sure I had food poisoning, but I didn't know. It was maybe contagious or whatever. There was actually, so I had to crawl to the bathroom. And I just stayed there as long as possible. I closed the door and I just like put my head and I was like trying to sleep.
You got a ring there.
Yeah. So one time I was crawling back to my room, and I was just like, I was so weak. I just like, because there's like my kitchen, bathroom, dining room, and then bedroom. And so I was crawling back to bedroom, and I thought, oh, fuck it. I just like stayed in my dining room. I just fell asleep there, and I woke up and crawled back to the washroom. Mm. But it was luckily she brought me that stuff, because it had like pineapple and apples and stuff like that. And so I started eating it and drinking the sports drink, and I could have died. I was like alone.
Yeah, well, mine could too.
My company wasn't here, so there's no people to actually like help me out. I called them and told them to cancel my classes. Like, I couldn't go buy food because I would have cushioned myself. Yeah. So, yeah.
And so she handed you the fruit basket. She asked you, she turns to walk away. Oh, by the way, how's the getty?
Yeah.
Fucking day. You have to, it always comes back to the diary.
Always with the getty.
So, yeah, so that was a pretty shocking and somewhat traumatic that I didn't want to have yakitori, which I love. I didn't want to have that again, probably for about a year.
Wow, you were traumatized.
Because I was just like, I'd never known that kind of pain. It felt like it's either rocky punches or someone stabbing me. Police stab you. Okay, it's not that. You know that, so that's good. But that was the pain. I'd never felt such pain, and I thought, I don't need that again. And yeah, it's probably unlikely, but why take a chance? Like, there's other good stuff, so I won't eat that. It took about a year before I came around to having yakitori again. Because I thought that, from chicken, as we know, that's from chicken.
And then we went to Toridoru, remember that?
Yeah, that was a good place.
A great place.
But the chicken can make it, that Campylobacter, I think, is only from chicken, and it's pretty brutal. And like I said, if you don't get medical treatment, you will eventually die.
Yeah,
it doesn't heal itself. It's not like your body's going, I'm going to beat that parasite. You need antibiotics to kill it. Otherwise, it just keeps eating you.
Wow, Jesus Christ.
That sucked. That was way worse than the miso toast.
Yeah.
You were going to segue? Before you segue, let me just see. I heard that you replied.
Okay, so, sorry to end the diarrhea conversation so abruptly, but Mark is going to a nomikai tonight. Nomikai is a drinking party, but of course it's an eating, drinking party. Like most cultures, especially Asian cultures, they realize the value of the social binding that occurs through alcohol consumption. So Japanese like to have this...
They actually call it nomiunication, right? Nomi means drink, and communication. It's a portmanteau of drinking and communicating. Nomiunication.
So what's your nomikai tonight consist of?
Ribs. Traditional Japanese food. No, it's a great place. This deserves a shout out. It's in Tamatsukuri, Osaka, which is not far from the castle. It's called Ribbon, and it's like a set for like 3,300 yen, which you guys already talked about that the other day about the prices. It's like $25 these days. Ribs are not the only thing. It's like a full like carpaccio, salad, pizza, pasta, ribs. Yeah. Dylan and I, Dylan, I've got this friend who's like 2 meters tall. He's a huge guy. And we're like, they're bringing more? Like, not enough, but we weren't angry. I mean, more is better than not enough. We're like, Jesus.
Stop bringing us food, for Christ's sakes.
It's like, when does it stop? It just keeps coming. And we do the nomikai with it, the nomihodai, which you guys also have already talked about, all you can drink.
All you can drink.
For like, it comes out to even 5,000 yen. So it's, in the old days, that would be 50 Canadian. Now that's probably about 42 or 3 Canadian. And that's like $10 US. Stuffed with good food, great ambience. The drink menu could be a little bit more variety. As you maybe didn't mention the other day, but sometimes, because maybe that place didn't have it, but sometimes the wine you get on the nomihodai it's not Roman Conti. It's the Franzia in the box. That wine's decent there, but it's not. The menu
anyway, you can drink all you want for like 90 minutes or 2 hours, and
So yeah, it's a great deal and good food and a nice atmosphere. Kind of found it behind the station one time.
So what is the kai part of the nomikai is like kind of meeting? So it's a party of people, work related.
Yeah, well, actually no. Well, only in the sense that they're my students, but not college students. They're they have something at my university called Extension School, where graduates or mothers of current students or anyone now is, because they're wise and thinking, maybe we should open up to anyone. It has to be a woman, and that's okay. But they thought, why shoot ourselves in the foot? Like, who has too many customers, right? So they want more students. It's open to any women from any age, really. So it's mostly, I've got 9 women in this class. They range in age from early 30s to mid-60s, from all different walks of life. They're all professional women. None of them are stay-at-home moms. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But so it's a world news, current events kind of class. So we discuss what's going on in the news. It's 90 minutes, and so we usually have a nomikai at the end of a semester. It's like this is the end of the semester.
Yeah. So and again, the idea that Japanese love to mark the end of things. So when there's an end of especially an end of a course, people want to take pictures together. Yeah. They get a picture of everyone, or they want to go out and celebrate the semester with Emil. And it's not uncommon to. I'm talking to you now. I'm talking to them. It's not uncommon for people to go out with their students, even university students. It's not common for teachers and students don't do that. And unless he's
this
really
podcast
cute.
Sponsored by Rupees. Is there a company that makes rupees? Never seen a rupee. Well, show me them. Take out your jar. One of those big jars, the ones we have back home. We put the food in.
The pickle jars.
No, but they've got a certain name.
Mason jars. Mason jars.
Yeah, he's got a mason jar. Fucking.
No, mine wouldn't fit in a mason jar. I've got a garbage bag, double layer black garbage bag.
It's canvas though, so it doesn't break.
So no, it's totally not uncommon for students and teachers to go out, especially after a course is finished. But also co-workers do this. They'll go out just every now and then. And Jesus Christ!
Saved by the bell. Maybe a polite delivery man, of which they are very polite.
Well, you can hi. You can talk about how on time the Japanese postal service is.
Well, just to finish up on the nomikai thing, the beginning and end, that's where I think I've kind of become a little bit more like Japanese. I really like that start and finish of things. Even with classes or a lot of stuff, I like the way, well, even before we eat, and I'm not religious, but I'll always do the itadakimasu, which again isn't really religious at all. It's not like a grace thing. When I'm back in Canada and sometimes my mom's putting out the food for everyone and somebody starts eating before she's even finished serving everyone, it's like, what? Can we just at least wait for the person who did the work to join us? So something to be safer. Let's start the meal and then thank you for the meal is not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, sorry for that interruption. The mail.
There's a lot of shit.
Anyway, you got your nomikai today in class. I got a class today, and so we got shit to do. Lots more to talk about diarrhea and stuff. Yeah. But next time for sure. Mark is not accustomed to leaving a place without a round of applause. So everybody, please,
Okay. The slow clap or the one hand clapping in the forest. No, that's a tree falls in the forest.
Well, definitely got to have it back because it's like every time we say goodbye, it was like still lots more to talk about. I didn't talk about this. I didn't talk about this.
That would have been way better than the shit we talked about.
Yeah,
he kept cutting me off. He's got to always have his say.
If you didn't like this podcast, it's Mark's fault, and if you loved it, it's because I'm such a great interviewer.
and enough about me. But what do you think about me? Yeah. I love that one. I think it's from Mike. Okay,
yeah, you got to keep it. Okay, thanks for watching. Oh, I'm supposed to say, I never say this. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you like this video, hit like. Even if you didn't like the video, what does it cost? You just hit like and subscribe, please. Thanks. Peace out.
Peace out. Let's get piss pot drunk.